everyone. Welcome to the 12th Annual Women's Entrepreneurship Day Summit. Let's give it up. Woo, 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 woo. I am your MC for tonight, Queen's Deputy Borough President, Ebony Young, and I have the amazing pleasure of introducing, this is Ebony from the World's Borough, in a world space with a world icon, Wendy Diamond, making world changes. Let's give it up for Wendy Diamond! Woo! All right.
Okay. I don't know if you know, but Ebony is literally the number 2 person in Queens. And Queens is one of the most innovative cities in the world, thanks to Ebony. Woohoo! So hopefully everyone made it here in time and everyone flew in with all the craziness with the FAA and the shutdown. We are so honored to be here, to be with you all. Thank you for celebrating our 12th anniversary with us today. You have such incredible surprises and people. And more importantly, you are going to experience and hear about the most impactful projects that we are funding and that we have created. And you're going to meet I just love all the people that you're going to hear from today. So I'm so happy to be here. So happy for you guys to be here. There's nowhere in the world I would rather be than here right now. So thank you so much for joining us. And I would love to welcome one of the most incredible, literally spiritual people in the entire world. So please welcome to bless us all today and start with a meditation, Yogmata. Woo!
こんにちは。私はヨグマタ相川恵子と申します。
Hello, my name is Yogumata Keiko Aikawa.
ビデオで、今紹介されたように、私はヒマラヤで、すごく深い瞑想、さらに究極のスーパーコンシャスネスになる究極のサマディというステージ、それにずっと長く何日も何日もいるという、エンライトメントを成就しました。
So I experienced in Himalaya deep meditative state and the state of enlightenment for days. That's called samadhi.
7年間ヒマラヤで修行をして、それから16年間、18回にわたって、アンダーグラウンドサマディという、それ皆さんにブレッシング、愛のエネルギー、平和のエネルギーを届ける、そうした、平和活動をしました。
So after that experience, over the 16 years, she when she went underground samadhi and to deliver blessing and love energy over 18 times.
私は今多くの人を、皆さんに瞑想の深い瞑想を体験していただく秘宝を伝授して、そして7日間のリトリートを、日本で、毎日というくらい行っています。
So in order to deliver this a method, a deep meditative method, she's offering this 7 days retreat in Japan.
それで皆さんが内側が心と体が、浄化されて、そして、transcend to change the personality、ね、皆さんが、変容して生まれ変わって、大変パワフルでインナーピース、平和な心と愛が満ちて、それからすごい、知識を超えた、そうした神聖なディバインな知識がどんどん湧いてくるような、そういう人格になっていきます。
So through this experience, you would experience that you ascend your inner peace, inner state, and it will it's like transcending, and you experience rebirth to another version of yourself, and that would feel like very powerful, filled with love, and that's something over the cognitive state that you deal with every day.
ウェンディさんがこの、皆さんが成功した人がこのイベントに来て、そしてウェンディさんが多くの女性をサポートしているこの、会、そしてイベントに招いていただきましてとても光栄に思っております。
She feels very honored to be here today, surrounded with these like successful women, and we're very thankful to be here.
私は日本で生まれました。それで、7人兄弟の末っ子です。そして父は1歳半の時に亡くなりました。でもとっても楽しい家族で、みんな才能あふれていて、私は、ちょっとシャイで、そういう兄弟を見ていました。
So she's born as a youngest of 7 children, like a big family. Unfortunately, one passed away, but still she had a very happy childhood.
母が一人でしたから、一人で生きていかなきゃならないと思ったので、エレクトニクスのエンジニア、その当時女の人はそういうことをやらなかったんですけれども、そういう学校に行きました。
So she's raised by a single parent, single mother. So she had to study electrical engineering in the beginning in order to survive.
それで、私は、さらに、働いたんですけれども、ちょっと偏っているなと思いまして、普通の大学を目指し、試験勉強して、
And so she's been working, but something didn't really click with her, so she actually decided to go to college to study further.
夏休みに毎日アメリカンスタイル、ウエスタンスタイルのバターとかミルクを使う料理をしたら、うちの兄弟が喜んでいましたので、そしたら私の顔にベアッと吹き出物が出てしまったんですね。
Oh, so it's she really loves cooking, and her big brothers really enjoyed her cooking. She used, her specialty was American style, using lots of butter and milk. But then that actually caused lots of blemishes.
それで私は断食とか、最初ウエスタンヒーリングをやってあんまり良くならなかったので、東洋医学とか鍼灸とか、その断食とかやって少し良くなったんですね。それでヨガに出会ったんです。それで誰もやってない時代、ヨガも誰もやってない。私は今80歳です。それで、だいぶ前です。思い出せないくらい60何年前の話です。60 years before.
So so that's why. So with these blemishes, she started trying different healings. First, she started Western healing, but that didn't really work. So she started tried fasting, Eastern medicine, and then that's how she met yoga. And back then, probably 60 something years ago, because she's now over 80. But back then, no one knew what yoga is. No one was doing yoga.
でヨガにはまりました。そして、でも途中で少し、サボっていたというか毎日やらなかったんですね。そして私はちょっと働きすぎて結核になりました。25ぐらいですね。
And so she was practicing. She wasn't that serious in the beginning. She wasn't doing it necessarily every day, but at one point she got really, really sick.
私の父が結核で亡くなったんですね。それのせいかと思いますけれども、それでその後、 もっともっといろいろ勉強をして皆さんヨガを離れたくないのでヨガの先生になりました。そして、東京でものすごく成功しました。すべてのデパートメントとすべてのカルチャーセンター50カ所で30代で教えていました。で、世界中アメリカにも来ていろいろ NLP とかヒプノシスとかその他宗教リリジョンそうですね、サイコロジーとかいろいろなムーブメントジャズダンスも習いました。もういっぱいいっぱいでした。I speak English to the maybe good to sorry I just I met the Himalayan master to my age 38. I met the Himalayan master come TV program to I help him to the producer to call me to my student bring that program to I joined. Then after that he invited Himalaya. So that I want to that great inner power develop your so much your true self is a beautiful and peace and very strong. And here people too much strong. I am also strong. I'm always shanty, 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 but inner power I have. So I want to share to you to love. You have a full of love, unconditional love. That your business more success. To appreciate other people, to love other people, love yourself, love other, and you are so you need to brain to clear. Today I made to you your brain clear to guide meditation. Okay, sorry, just breathing and just close your eyes, and you are between eyebrow to bring to the inhale from nose to the 3 times, and breathe out, and breathe in to the between eyebrow, then breathe out, and close your eyes, breathe in, and breathe out, breathe in. Breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. Around 10 times, after that, you shanti, shanti. Your shanti is surround you and inner power, inner love to arising your peace and inside you are powerful and you are full of love, your nature, your quality is so you can will power to strong, you can beyond to your work to the handle, your work handle with love and peace and creative mind. So you are more success. I want to share love and peace to you for success in America and world. Woman be strong. Yes. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Let us welcome Gloria Allred, legendary civil rights attorney, founding partner of Allred, Morocco, and Goldberg, with the interviewee Lauren Young at Reuters. Please come up and join us.
Good morning, Gloria.
Good morning.
Gloria was up early. What time did you get up this morning?
You don't want to know.
Gloria was
4
up
o'clock.
4 a.m., which is normal for you because she was on CNN this morning speaking about the Epstein case. Gloria, you're representing how many women?
27 survivors of Jeffrey Epstein. And I've been
Louder,
representing them
please.
for a number of years.
I actually just got goosebumps, if you can take pictures of those. Gloria, thank you for joining us today. And I want to, this is going to be a serious conversation. So we're coming from namaste and love to how to protect yourself, which is self-love in a different way. Gloria.
Well, in other words, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how to fight for justice. against rich, powerful men or women who have sexually abused you and taken advantage of their position of power in order to harm you, and how and when to do something about it.
So, Gloria, you've been doing this for how many years now?
50.
And I mean,
Let me just say, if I may
Go ahead.
add to that, there's a saying in the women's movement that it's the only movement in which the participants become more radical as they get older. Do you agree?
yes. I'm not going to name drop, but if you want to Google, Gloria has represented lots of people who bold-faced names that you will know. Right now, you're very focused on the Epstein case, but I want to ask you, just take a step back. Sexual harassment in the workplace, in the world, is it still happening today? We were hearing about the Epstein stuff from long ago, but what about today in 2025?
Okay, sexual harassment in the workplace and outside of the workplace is still frequent, severe, pervasive. It's still going on. That's the bad news. Good news is there is something that you can do about it. And I'm going to share some of those somethings that you probably never learned about in college, in graduate school, or in any other place in your education.
Share away.
Okay. Well, there are many things you can do about sexual harassment. The main thing is, and by the way, many of you younger women and men who have really studied hard, and how many students are here still in university or higher education of some kind? Okay. And so how many have ever heard about sexual harassment in the workplace and learned what you could do about it? Nobody. And that's what I thought. Okay. All right. So sexual harassment, what you can do about it is different in every state. And I know there are people from many different states, probably some other countries as well. And so you'll need to consult a lawyer in your state. But essentially, it's unwelcome words or conduct or misconduct in the workplace. You'll know it when you see it. It can be words. It can be misconduct. Misconduct, for example, showing you pornography. Someone wanting you, essentially, to have sex with them. Maybe it's a supervisor. Maybe it's a coworker. Maybe it's the CEO or the COO of your corporation. And you're concerned that if you say no, that you may lose your job. But the truth is, if you say yes, you may also lose your job at some point when he gets tired of you or she gets tired of you. So the question is, what can you do about it? You do have rights. Some people are in fear. Many people are in fear when they are a victim of sexual harassment or sexual abuse because they're afraid that if they complain, even though their corporation or government tells you, yeah, please complain, they're afraid they're going to lose their job if they complain, that they'll be considered a troublemaker. The truth is, what you need to do is you need to document, at least for yourself, what has happened to you every day and how you are being a victim of sexual harassment. If there's an HR, which there usually is in large companies, you need to complain to HR and do it in writing, okay?
How do you recommend that people document? What should they be keeping track of? Do you have to
Keeping
do
track of-
time, date, place?
Good. Time, date, place, what he has said. I'll say he for the purposes of this discussion. What he has said, what he has done, okay? Keep all the emails that he sent you, the direct messages, the texts, and all of that. Recently, I was able to help a woman obtain a multi-million-dollar settlement, and part of it is because she did keep everything as we had told her to do. And that was very hard for the major corporation to defend against. I would like to give you just an example. There's many examples of sexual harassment. You can file a lawsuit, but most cases, that you'll never hear about are not found in lawsuits. You generally don't hear about lawsuits. Sometimes you do. That's usually because settlement has not been successful. So I want to tell you about one lawsuit to give you an example of what we did and why I take this seriously. Just a few years ago, we had a case for Mahim Khan versus Alki David, who was a billionaire. And we filed a lawsuit for her, and the jury came back and awarded our client, Ms. Khan, $58,250,000, and that did not even include an award of attorney's fees, which we also won afterwards, so it wouldn't have to come out of the verdict. So what happened to her in the workplace? Well, the evidence in the case was that Alki David would walk into her cubicle while she was working, swivel her chair until she faced him, and then grab her neck and thrust it towards his pelvic area while making moaning sounds. This happened 2 or 3 times a week. Mr. David would then zip up his pants, say thanks to her, and walk away. The jury also heard evidence that on multiple occasions, Alki David grabbed her vagina. One witness testified that she saw him come up behind Ms. Khan, put his hand between her legs, and grab her vagina. There was also testimony from Ms. Khan and another witness that Mr. David grabbed Ms. Khan's breasts on numerous occasions, and on one such occasion, exposed her breasts. She also testified that she was working in a conference room when he shoved her into a chair and performed a lap dance while placing his hand behind her head and pressing his pelvic area towards her head. He also did what he called the man-gina at work, where he dropped his pants and underwear and tucked his genitals between his legs. He was completely naked with his pants down around his ankles while he waddled like a duck as he did a little dance. These events and others had a devastating impact on Ms. Khan. She suffered enormously, including feeling suicidal at various times. She testified that she felt like she has a scarlet letter on her back. We argued that the scarlet letter should be transferred to him, and the jury verdict of $52,250,000 was designed just to do that. So she was severely depressed. She had flashbacks. She went to a therapist. Bottom line is that this huge verdict, which was that year the largest in California for one individual who suffered sexual harassment, sent a clear message to Mr. David and those like him that these kinds of behavior will not be tolerated in the workplace. So every time he wakens or goes to sleep, he should remember this $58,250,000 award to her that the LA County jury found. And this was affirmed on appeal. So we are now in the process of collecting.
So, Gloria, I'm sitting here listening to you read that, and I got angry. Did anybody else in this room feel that? I mean, I felt violated myself just hearing that. How do we protect ourselves in those situations? Okay. How do we even stop that from happening?
Yeah, great question. So this was a teaching moment for him, and I literally believe that it's important for the wrongdoer, the harasser, or the rapist, or the child sexual abuser, any of them. The way to give them a teaching moment is to speak to them in the language they understand, which means literally make them pay the consequences. I referred earlier, Lauren, to the fact that some people are afraid to file a lawsuit. They don't want their name out there in the press. They don't want to give interviews. They want their privacy, but they do want justice and accountability. So here's how most cases are handled. They're not handled by lawsuits. They're handled pre-litigation, meaning without a lawsuit. So in other words, somebody comes to me, she tells me what happened. Of course, all communications with every lawyer, including me, are confidential, whether or not she goes ahead and asserts her rights. So what we do is we do a confidential settlement. The press hates those because they can never find out what went on. And they shouldn't, because the client wants her privacy and she's entitled to that. So we do a confidential process. And what that entails is, for example, and this is common to other attorneys too, so it's not just me and my law firm, but we'll talk to the client, we'll see what kind of evidence she has. She usually has more evidence than she thinks she has. She usually says, well, it's my word against him, but we dive down and we find out there's more. But you know, her word is evidence too. A woman's word has value. That's pretty radical these days, but it's true. So we will essentially we will contact the other attorney, tell them we represent the victim. We will suggest a confidential settlement process, which is called a mediation. That's a form of dispute resolution. And if they agree to it, we set a date. We have a neutral person both sides agree to. Person's called a mediator, who may be a retired judge or just a lawyer who's a professional mediator who knows how to get settlements. Usually, the big, powerful, famous man does agree to it. And then we meet on one day, often on Zoom, and they don't have to do it in person anymore. And we're all on Zoom. The other side never gets a chance to ask any question of our client or even say hello. And we don't ask questions directly of them either. And they don't see me, which they definitely don't want to see me.
Well, I want to see you.
And we don't see them, but the mediator goes back and forth between the parties. And we've done a brief for her. The other side does a brief. She knows our side. She knows the defenses. This goes on all day. At the end of one day, we usually settle a case. Sometimes it goes on maybe another week. The mediator asks for another week to try to get more money, maybe from insurance, maybe from the wrongdoer. But I'll say 98% of the time, cases settle in mediation. There's never going to be a lawsuit. You're never going to hear about it. There are non-monetary terms like you can't disparage her, and so forth. So then she preserves her reputation. A future employer is never going to know she asserted a claim against that CEO or other powerful person in her life. Powerful people are not just people you see. We've gone against people in the entertainment industry. That's okay. Entertainment industry, sports, politics, business, religion, you name it, we've gone against people in that. Powerful people may be people in your own life. They never employed you, but maybe it's a stepfather who sexually abused you. Maybe it's somebody in the sports world. So it doesn't have to be a celebrity. It's a powerful person, and most women have powerful people in their lives. Often,
We're in a
taken
building
advantage
of powerful people,
Go ahead.
right? Gloria, we talked about sexual harassment. We only have about 5 minutes left. I want to quickly talk about sex discrimination, which is also something that is very important to everyone in this room.
I'm glad you did. I'm glad you said that, because sexual harassment is a form of sex discrimination in the law. Why do we want to prevent sexual harassment, sex discrimination? Because sexual harassment and sex discrimination are barriers to the enjoyment of equal employment opportunity. As I said earlier, if your boss is sexually harassing you or just victimizing you, like depriving you of a title for your job, or not paying you the same as men get, or failing to promote you the way they promote men, you're being discriminated against because of your sex. And that is wrong. You can't enjoy equal employment opportunity if these barriers are constantly being thrown in your way. They're not being judged on your merits, how many degrees you have, whether you have a great background in the financial world or anything else. The old boys club is still alive and well and existing in this world. And some of them feel a great deal of entitlement, and they feel threatened by women. They don't want women to be able to do the jobs they do or be supervised by women, because, hey, if a woman can do it, they don't feel their job is all that important, and they want to feel important. And men are important, and many of them, by the way, are caring individuals. I've had 2 partners who are men, founded the law firm with me, and we always say a man of quality is not threatened by a woman of equality. So there are good men who support us. Some of them are here today, and we appreciate them. But we want justice for our daughters and our sisters and our mothers and our aunts. We want justice for them, and justice means they have to be accountable. It's not the victim who should pay for the wrong by suffering. It's the wrongdoer who should pay for the wrong against the victim.
Gloria, you gave a beautiful commencement speech at American University. You should Google it and watch it.
Law school commencement.
Law school's commencement. And one thing you said to this class of 2025 law school graduates was, there's a war on the rule of law. What is happening in America is not normal. How can we fight back, to borrow your book title?
Well, I like the famous saying of Mother Jones, don't agonize, organize.
Don't agonize, organize.
Yeah, every single one of you in this room or watching on a streaming link can do something. If you do nothing, you're agreeing with the status quo, which is a deprivation of your rights, rights of minorities, rights of immigrants, so many other rights. Doing nothing is voting for that. Most of you don't want that, so you must do something. You can each do something. You can speak out. You can protest. You can be there. You can be there and be heard. There are protests going on every day all over this nation and some places elsewhere in the world. You can donate to organizations. In other words, besides using your feet and your voice to protest, you can make contributions to organizations that are filing lawsuits and going to the courts to attempt to vindicate their rights. So we have a threat to our democracy. We are now living in an authoritarian time in the United States. Let's not kid ourselves. Even though we can still go to a hair salon, we can still go to a dental appointment, we can still go shopping for nice clothes, we can go to weddings, bar mitzvahs, and funerals. We are living in an authoritarian time, and the only way to fight for that is now. Because if it gets worse, and it will, there'll be a point at which there's nothing we can do. Now's the time.
Well, we only have 1 minute left, Gloria, and I do want to leave people on a positive note. The legal system, does it still work?
It's flawed, as we can see in the Epstein case. It's corrupted, but it's the only system we have. It's just like, democracy doesn't always work, but it's still the best system that we have. We just have to work to make it better. I've always said, no one ever gives women any rights. No one ever has given any rights to women. Nobody will give this to you. You have to fight for it. So you can fight in a quiet, confidential settlement process to vindicate your rights, to assert your rights, to protect your rights. And believe me, that's a process he'll never forget, okay? Because he's used to usually a lot of yes people around him. He's not used to you standing up. The only way you're going to win respect and win dignity is stand up for yourself. And you deserve it. And then you're a role model for yourself, your family, your coworkers, even if they never know about the fact that you settled. You are becoming transformed in that process. You're becoming transformed in the yoga process, and then you're further transformed because you who may think you could never seek justice, you can, and you will win, and you will become a transformed person in your life because that's what empowerment is. It has a ripple effect. Empowerment is contagious. And you're here today because you have been empowered. You are seeking answers, and you are seeking to improve yourself and the condition and status of women. So we have to join together to do this. And joining together, we will win.
We will win. Thank you so much, Gloria.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it.
Our moderator today is Ellie Terrett, journalist, host of Crypto in America, and our speakers, Munib Ali, Sean Owens, and Wendy Diamond, all of various businesses and organizations, including the co-founders of Stack, co-founder and CEO of Trust Machines, CEO and co-founder of Salt Crypto Bank Lending, and our very own Wendy Diamond, CEO of Women's Entrepreneurship Day, LDP Ventures. Come on up and join us for this panel.
Welcome, everybody, and thanks for being here today. Thank you, Wendy, for putting on this amazing event. It's such an honor to be here and to be with you guys today. So yeah, let's kick it off. I mean, we are at the UN today in the financial capital of the world, New York City. And I think here, especially when you talk about Bitcoin or you hear about Bitcoin, it really is thought of as a speculative asset, right? But you go other places in the world and it actually becomes much more than that. It becomes a vehicle for getting access to savings, getting access to credit, getting access to financial autonomy. And that's what we're going to explore on this panel today. And I'm excited to kick it over to Wendy because she has a really cool story about how she got exposed to Bitcoin back in 2014. It was through a female goat farmer, I believe. And I want you to tell the audience how that opened your eyes to how Bitcoin is expanding access to people in underserved countries who are not banked or underbanked. Can you tell us what that taught you?
So if people have been here before, you kind of know this story. But, you know, my background is not financial. My background is not technical at all. It's been impacted my whole entire life. And what happened because of launching Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization, and we partnered with the State Department, we launched in over 144 countries. And I ended up meeting this woman in Botswana who was a goat farmer. And in 2011, her son got really sick and she was trying any way she could to figure out how to pay for health care. And what happened was she learned about Bitcoin. And unfortunately, her son passed away and decided to take her one-room hut, literally the one-room hut as a goat farmer in Botswana she lived in, and turned it into the Satoshi Center and was teaching all these farmers about Bitcoin. And what it brought to me was like, wow, you know, I was like thinking about this for a minute and I was thinking, wow, here's this technology that's actually going to enable people like her to actually be part of the financial ecosystem, right? Because this woman was making maybe $1 a day, right? And what you see, like in a lot of these countries, what I realized is, wow, you know, the founders of Bitcoin, they didn't care about fame, money, or power, right? Because they created a fake name, so no one knows who they are, right? So they have no fame. And then they have no power because no one knows who they are, right? And they made Bitcoin traceable, transparent, immutable, and only created 21 million, right? So it can never be deflated. And in countries like Botswana, their inflation is like 10,000 a day. You know, it's like crazy, and like Venezuela and et cetera. So that's what for me, that was like super impactful, because creating this foundation, I learned that 388 million women and girls were living in poverty, and 1 out of 8 women in America live in poverty. I was thinking, wow, you know, this is something I really want to learn about. And so that's what brought me back to New York and went through that rabbit hole of being in this ecosystem.
Munib, we were talking backstage just now, and we're talking about how Bitcoin is viewed today largely as not just a peer-to-peer, transfer of money or wealth. It's also a store of value, akin to digital gold. Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, likes to call it digital gold. He's all in on Bitcoin at this point, which kind of tells you how far we've come in the last 10 years. But can you kind of explain, from your point of view, how Bitcoin is a savings vehicle, and kind of what Wendy said with that 21 million, how it is a hedge against inflation, because really you can't print any more. It's not like the US dollar where you can kind of print infinite amounts.
Yes, so I think the way to think about this is Bitcoin can be a complicated technology. It can sort of throw a lot of people off. My background is in technology. I did a PhD in computer science at Princeton, and that's where I discovered Bitcoin. But I think the beauty of it is that you can almost ignore the inner complications of Bitcoin and simply view it as a way for storing wealth digitally, right? The best analogy is gold. People understand gold. It's been around for thousands of years. But think of like what would be a digital version of gold look like, right? So it's simply a store of value, and it's very easily portable, very easily. You can transfer it. Like it's hard to put a lot of gold bars in your bag and like try to take it somewhere, or do accounting for it. Really verify exactly how much you have. Bitcoin is like very transparent, very neutral, and it's a really good store of value because it's at a early stage of adoption. A lot of people sort of like get scared by the volatility of Bitcoin. When I started like around 13 years ago or something, there was one explanation that sort of stuck with me, that the price of Bitcoin is just a technology adoption curve, right? So the more people who use it around the world, because the supply is fixed, it will get reflected in the price. And I've seen Bitcoin go from like $70 to 100 to 1,000 to 10,000 to 100,000, and that is just a technology adoption curve. Like still, I think there are billions of people out there who still don't know about what it is, how it's a saving technology, and I think we are at a very, very early stage still. Like we're only around 6-7% of the gold market cap, and I think digital gold is going to be better than real gold, just like email is better than paper mail, or electronic communication is better than sort of like trying to use other forms.
Sean, you've been in Bitcoin, or you've been an advocate. I'm not sure if you bought into it in 2014 or 2011. I'm sorry, 2011. But you started Salt.
He's buying lunch.
He's buying in 2016, I believe, and that was to give access to capital to people who wanted to borrow against their Bitcoin. Can you explain why that was the business model that you chose, and why that is important, why it's still important, frankly?
Yeah, so if you think about savings technology and just savings in general, as the first thing you have to do, everybody's born with nothing and then has to earn something, and then you want to earn and save that hard-earned wealth somewhere where you know it's going to be protected. Bitcoin is definitely the best technology that's ever been invented for this. It's by far, in a way, the best, and it can get detailed and complicated. It's almost better not to try to learn too much about it at the beginning, just get some and hold on to it. But in the early days, you could really buy and sell, and that was about all you could do. And I would watch, myself included, everybody that would want to go participate and be active in the space. And there was really no way to have a bridge to get to where we would need to be with credit markets. And Bitcoin, by default, is inclusive. And when you think about access and financial empowerment, you need inclusion. Everybody should have a fair shake at it. And I think that's what really caught me about Wendy's story here, and just what everybody stands for when you're supporting entrepreneurs and women, is that everybody has to have a seat at that table if it's financial inclusion. And building on top of that, there was, well, how are we going to get there? Maybe someday we do have this as a currency, but we're going to need some bridge to get from this new, gold shiny light on the hill that we think might be possible, and the current system we have, which has gotten us where we are now. And the only real way to think about that was that you need to be able to borrow against it. And so the saying is that I really like is, if you have Bitcoin, you have credit, and it's permission to everybody by default. And by having it, you have something that nobody can take away. It's just a beautiful technology.
So if I don't have a credit score, because I think, can you talk a little bit about historically women have not been as, I guess, they haven't had access to credit scores in the same way that men have. Maybe just haven't had access to like property, maybe haven't had the same access to credit cards and that kind of thing, maybe in underserved countries, underserved communities. So it's a little bit harder for women to be able to go to a bank and say, hey, I need a credit loan for, to start a business. But if they have Bitcoin, they're able to come to you and say, hey, like, here's my Bitcoin, that's all the collateral they need. And you will say, hey, that's all I need, and you can give them a loan basically based on that. Is that correct?
Yeah, there's two things there. So one, credit scores are intended well, right? The idea is to learn how to have repayment and how to earn credit towards being good at making your payments. But it introduces this asking for permission and earning your way in. It incentivizes some bad habits, actually, by early on, many people become in debt because they're trying to earn the credit. And if you think about it, when you introduce somebody that you have to go get permission from, unfortunately, bad actors can take advantage of those situations, and their discrimination can occur, and it becomes subjective. And the beautiful part about having something programmable that is audited by everybody and accessible by everybody is that you don't have that. It's not possible because it's objective and it's the same for everybody. Bitcoin doesn't care if you're a man or a woman. It just is what it is and it works. And so this just removes that paradigm and it changes to one where you must save first and that you must be responsible for your finance first, and it doesn't matter who you are. So it does remove a lot of problems with fraud and with abuse. And I think that's relevant to everybody here.
Wendy, you work with women in over 140 countries, I believe, and you work with entrepreneurs on the ground. Where are you seeing Bitcoin helping women, sort of like in real world situations, kind of help break barriers down for entrepreneurs?
Well, it's in America, we have the US dollar, which is pretty much the most stable currency, right? And the global currency. And so, we don't need it here, right? But what I've seen a lot, like just in entrepreneurship in America with a certain group that is, very much accepting, these new technologies, including Bitcoin and AI at the beginning and et cetera, is using Bitcoin actually as collateral. Like people don't really realize, that the technology blocked, so there's a difference between Bitcoin and crypto, right? Bitcoin is the only decentralized currency of all currencies in the world. There's no other currency in the world that is decentralized. That means nobody is in control of it, right? It's just the people's currency, right? So I think, when you think about, when I think about this whole thing, I think it's about, when you're going to get a mortgage, it takes 30 days, notary republics, like lawyers and all these things, right? And if you're going to get a mortgage or a loan, you have so much in traditional finance, you have so much to deal with. It's kooky. And it takes like a month or 6 weeks to even get that loan after you do all the work, right? But what Bitcoin is on the blockchain, right? And what happens when you know this more than anybody, right? Is that it literally could take 1 hour to use your Bitcoin as collateral. Is that correct? What do you guys do with salt lending?
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think most people don't really recognize there is just that it's extremely cumbersome to do all that manual work with humans at bank branches and across the board doing redundant triple entry book accounting. It's just not efficient. And so you can measure Bitcoin any way you want to, and a lot of times people will give it a lot of gruff against having maybe high energy cost. But the truth is it's settling sometimes near instant on second layers like what Stacks does, speeding up the transaction cost for these transactions. And even if you're to go to the upper limit, let's say 10 minutes or something, 10 minutes to settle a transaction that could take 90 days on a credit card rail, and then the accounting being done in final is going to outcompete no matter what. It's just simply faster and better. And collateral is a great use case because everybody has to have that if you're going to save. If you save, that's going to become collateral.
Manu, can you talk about the difference between Bitcoin as a savings mechanism and then payment stablecoins as what they were? Because I feel like the original use case for Bitcoin was probably what stablecoins are today, like a peer-to-peer, transfer of money, right? And now we're seeing that come along with stablecoins. We're hearing every day, some major financial institution is getting in on stablecoins. Can you just kind of break down what the difference is between the two? And I guess for our audience members who aren't familiar, what they need to know?
Yeah, so I think just like I described Bitcoin as almost like a digital version of gold, people also created digital versions of just the US dollar, right? So there are companies out there like Tether, they have this thing called USDT, and it's really just like Bitcoin is represented without getting into the technology too much, like on a blockchain, and it represents digital gold in a way. But this thing represents real dollars and is backed by real dollars as well. So there are dollars sitting in a bank account of this company, and they've issued this digital representation of that dollar. And you would think that, what's the big deal with that? Well, it is a really, really big deal because now you have this almost new financial infrastructure that's global, and people don't have to go through banks anymore. You can just set up your own wallet, and you can get access to digital dollars. And this is taking off in a massive way around the world. I think around $160 billion of supply sits in literally just one company, Tether. I think they're the seventh largest buyer of U.S. Treasury bills at this time. One of the most profitable companies on the planet right now, by the way. I think they had $13 billion of profit last year. And it's like a 30-person team. And why is there so much demand for it? Well, the reason is actually very similar to why people feel that things are always getting more and more expensive, right? So if you're in a country where your local currency is actually losing value against the dollar, you don't want to save money in the local currency, right? So if you're in Turkey or if you're in Pakistan, where I was born, people actually don't want to save in the local currency because they all understand that this thing is just going to lose value. So the dollar to them is a much more stable form of storing wealth, and that's why these technologies are taking off. Interestingly, in the US, and this takes a little bit more time to sort of like, have the right mental model for it, over here we also feel that things are getting more expensive, right? When you go to the grocery store, the price of meat is going up, or eggs, or whatever it might be. We feel it. We know the name is inflation. But it's something doesn't quite add up. But it's the same concept. Dollar is just losing value, and you need a better store of wealth, which is Bitcoin. So interestingly, if you plot like the value of Bitcoin as like the stable thing, dollar is actually losing value against it. Similarly, if you plot dollars versus other currencies are just losing value against the dollar.
Very well articulated. What would you say is the biggest barrier to Bitcoin, let's stick with Bitcoin adoption for women, for people who, can get access to this technology, but is it education? Is it regulation? Is it something else? What would you say is probably the main driver of bottlenecking?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I would say that we need to sort of like kill these stereotypes that, if it's something like a complicated technology, women are not going to learn about it, or and so on, right? So I think we need to like just put that aside. Yes, it can be a little bit of a complicated technology, but it is a complicated technology for everybody, right? There was a recent example where someone in our circles was getting divorced, and that guy's done pretty well for himself. And a friend was asking, how did the settlement happen? And he's like, well, I kept all the Bitcoin and gave up all of the houses. And that sort of like stuck with me, that in a way there's like information asymmetry, that the party on the other side, she probably felt like, the houses are real, like, it's real property, I'm going to get those. But he was feeling that I made the right trade because Bitcoin is going to be far more valuable. And I think that shouldn't exist, right? So I think it's an information gap. And I think there needs to be a lot more effort to sort of like fill that information gap, that why is Bitcoin valuable? Everyone should have like the right access to information. And I think events like these are actually doing a huge service to it.
What would you say, Wendy?
Well, first of all, I think it's education, right? Like, I think, we all know AI. I'm sure everybody in this room uses AI, right? And Bitcoin is still in puberty. Like, it's still really young, you know what I mean? And when you think about it, Gen Z, millennials, alphas, the new ones, whatever the next one is, they grew up on their phones, right? They're not going to be carrying bars of gold, right, around with them. And that's why I feel like we need to really educate everybody, because I feel like the more you understand and you go down and really understand, why was Bitcoin created? What is Bitcoin? Who are the founders? No one knows who the founders are. But, and really understand what it is doing to make a huge impact in this world, and to enable literally millions of people in Zimbabwe, Botswana, Nigeria, Venezuela, Argentina, an opportunity to actually, they are transacting daily on this. Like, so you have millions of people using Bitcoin every single day as a currency all around the world that live in high inflation communities.
And Sean, take us home.
I actually think that learning by practice is the best advice here. You can buy amount of Starbucks in Bitcoin. You don't have to make a large investment, and you will learn so much by just having something in your wallet and watching it for a while with very little risk. And the problem with the information, and I agree with everything you said, and You can go ask AI, and it'll probably tell you Bitcoin's a great idea. But I think the problem is there's been just so much news, and a lot of it's not great, and there haven't been marketing agents trying to figure out the right way to communicate this necessarily. It's been very grassroots and organic, and so there's a lot of bad terms, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of bad information, and then there's all these other companies and other coins that have been out there called crypto, and that can get confused a lot with Bitcoin. And at the end of the day, I think the best success I've had with actually getting people onboarded is just helping them buy $5. And then you have it and you start thinking about it, and as you get comfortable with, oh, that was pretty easy, and it's going up in value, what's going on there, it becomes a lot less that you have to learn about. It's a fascinating topic. I've been studying now for almost 15 years, and I still feel like I know less every day when I meet other smarter people. And so I think going down that rabbit hole is only for people who really want to learn everything about it, and there are great resources, but the easiest thing is just to have some and get started that way.
Awesome. Well, give it up for these three amazing panelists, please. Thank you.
Our moderator today, Lauren Young, wealth editor, world work and sustainability at Reuters. Our speakers, Chloe Ting, world-renowned certified personal trainer, global fitness pioneer, Jenny Hoyos, 20-year-old unicorn entrepreneur, content creator and influencer, and Mary Allo, founder and producer of Allo Entertainment, as well as Mackenzie Brooke, entertainer, influencer, and change maker. 21 million followers. If you don't have content creators, you're missing the mark.
Okay, Charlize Theron, Kate Blanchett, Demi Moore, Hilary Swank, Shirley MacLaine, Jessica Wang, Stanley Tucci, my favorite, Mary Allo. I'm introducing Mary because she is the person behind the content creation. I'm going to let the other creators introduce themselves. Mary, raise your hand. Mary is a renowned American film producer and writer, celebrated for her commitment to socially impactful storytelling. She's the founder of Allo Entertainment based in Los Angeles, and she has built a production company that has run over $150 million in revolving equity funds. Mary, how many movies have you produced?
To date, about 52, and I've got my next 3 lined up right now, so very excited about it.
So while Mary does not have hundreds of millions of followers, her eyeballs on the project she has worked on probably number in the billions.
I think so. We have one right now on Netflix that came out last year. We're just crossing 100 million, called Mary, or they've renamed it Mary Mother Jesus, but on Netflix now. But yeah, a lot of eyeballs.
And I'm just going to tell you one more fun fact about Mary. She specializes in producing, packaging, and financing films. And she's a key advisor in Partners in Kind Foundation, which is a donor-advised fund. And she is going to be talking today about how she got here. Chloe, very quickly, if you could introduce yourself and what you've done and your social impact.
I'm Chloe Ting, and I run a YouTube channel, and I do workout videos on YouTube. And
you were born in?
Oh yeah, I'm born in Brunei, which is a really small country, and then I moved to Australia. I lived in Australia half of my life, and then I moved to the United States 2 years ago.
And what platform can people find you on mostly?
Mostly on YouTube, and I don't use social media as much, but I do mostly post on YouTube, just workout videos, and I used to do more nutrition videos too. So anything that makes me feel good, I post like content that make other people feel good too.
Jenny, tell us your origin story. Miami girl.
Yes, so hi everyone, I'm Jenny Hoyos, and I'm a content creator with over 10 million followers and over 4 billion views, which is, it's insane to think about.
At age 20.
Yes, so a bit about me. I was raised by entrepreneurial immigrant parents who learned English. Actually, my mom's here today, so
stand up,
that's
Mom.
My mom. Her name's also Jenny, by the way, if you guys want to speak to her. But yeah, so my mom's favorite way to learn English was actually watching movies. So naturally, she introduced me to all her favorite movies, and I fell in love with the art of storytelling. And I secretly opened a YouTube channel at 8 years old and started posting videos every day. And a couple of years later, they found out, because that's how parents are. But they only had one rule. And that rule was to be a good student. I just had to do really good in school. So I listened and I started taking college classes at just 13. And I went to pursue my degree in finance. And I ended up incorporating that into my content a bit as well. And that's my story. I'm here today, a full-time content creator.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, Mackenzie, another Florida resident.
Yes, I love us two Florida girls next to each other. I'm from Davie, and basically I've been kind of in the entertainment business since I was really young. I was a Gerber baby, and from there I went into modeling, acting, and dancing. I started dancing for different artists, doing tours and going on different performances with them. And about 6 years ago, I started social media. I graduated high school really early, and kind of from there, it's been a whole other world, from like being like a backup dancer to changing and like now being an artist, and I perform at different festivals and different concerts, and now I have a following of over 21 million, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey. I also have my mom here too, and she's been managing me since day one, and I'm very thankful for her. And now we're living in LA all together.
So you're all storytellers in different platforms. I want to hear a little bit about who invested in you. You mentioned your moms, and how are you paying it forward? Mary, who was your mentor? Who invested in you, and what are you doing to change the world?
Yeah, I mean, my mom was my mentor. She's not with us now, but she is in spirit. But I had a few mentors on the way, but honestly, I sort of self-taught, you know. I had some agents and producers, and, you know, they knew how to kick my butt a bit, and my work ethic was not to stop, right? And to continue and to really try to, you know, when people were going home, and I stayed till midnight, and I didn't stop working. I was sort of the kid that, you know, stayed in and studied a lot. I went out a lot when I was younger, but I became that. And so just to excel and excel and excel. But it's about really believing in yourself. So, you know, I mean, honestly, I have to say this, Gloria Allred is really one of my inspirations, like, to meet her, you know, this weekend. And that is exactly the person for women. And I do, you know, have that where I look, you know, to other women to do it. But many times, and I'm in a little bit different generation from some of these women, you know, I've had to go into the boardroom, go into the meetings, and they don't often see me coming. It's changed a bit. But I've always felt that there wasn't the ceiling, because I didn't manifest a ceiling there. And I always wanted to walk in, and I felt I had a little bit of an edge, actually, because they didn't see me coming. You know, times have changed a bit. But my inspiration really was just learning and listening from people. There wasn't one individual that inspired me. It was a collective amount.
Chloe, who inspired you? And you didn't start out in the fitness world, correct?
No, I was actually working in an insurance company as a risk analyst.
There was laughter in the room. That was
for about 2 years, and then I quit my job, and then I started YouTube. So I had a degree, honors degree, master's degrees. They're all in financial markets, and I had a thesis about how it's gonna, what's gonna impact the volatility of financial markets, which is insane compared to what I'm doing right now. When I was working, I would write, financial models. And one day I just decided that's not what I want to do for the rest of my life, and I quit my job. And I stayed jobless for a little bit. I just want to figure out what I want to do. And then I started my YouTube channel. I did not have any income. I had a mortgage too because I was working, so I was like, you know what, it's time to buy a home. And then I was definitely scared, but that pushed me to work really hard and to get to where I am today with my YouTube channel.
Amazing. Yeah. Speaking of money, Jenny, you make money funny. How do you do that? And has anybody been able to watch any? If you haven't, please watch all of their content. It's all very different.
Oh, thank you.
And both of you make me crack up.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, everything all comes down to storytelling, really. You got to know how to hook people. You need to know who your avatar actually is, who you're speaking to. If you know that the person watching your content is probably a mother with lots of kids and doesn't have much money, you want to hook by speaking to that viewer. What's something that could be relatable to them? Maybe they're buying like Gerber or different products, and you can incorporate that into the hook and say, okay, is it just me, or this product is getting more expensive than usual? And now it feels like, oh wait, they're talking to me. So at the end of the day, I think it's about actually speaking to people and knowing how to speak to them.
Yeah, some of my favorite things that Jenny does are the hacks, where she tries to recreate like a Starbucks pumpkin latte.
Yeah, it's storytelling. I don't just say, hey, this is the recipe for a Starbucks drink. Boring, I'm not watching this. I make a story by saying, my mom just spent $1,000 last month on Starbucks coffee, and she used my credit card. So today I'm going to take her to Starbucks, but instead of giving her Starbucks, I'm going to switch their drink with mine to prove that mine is actually better. See, it's more interesting that way.
What's your hook, Mackenzie? How do you get people to watch you? And what impact do you hope to make?
Honestly, I've been very lucky that I just kind of put my personality out there. I'm always myself. For me, I don't try to find my way around. I'm just honest, and I just say how it is. If I like a brand, I like a brand. If I don't, I don't. When I'm performing, yes, I have an intro into every song I sing. There's a song I'm coming out with called Liar, Liar, and every single time I perform, I'm always like, who has brought their best friend today? And there's a whole crowd and they scream yes. I'm like, your best friend always has your back, right? Even if it involves talking to the hottest bad boy in school, your best friend knows who they truly are, right? And I basically get into the topic of they're a big old fat liar. So I do intros when it comes to like my music, but with my content, I've just I do makeup, I do dancing, I do acting, I do skits, and I'm just honestly myself, and I could be sometimes very dramatic, and that's how my family is too.
Mary, tell me a little bit about the impact of the work that it's such a large body of work, but what is it about visual storytelling that really makes people and inspires change?
Yeah, well, what I like up here is, all these women are brands, right? And I'm sort of the girl with the cigar behind the camera, right? That's what I
Give her a
always
cigar.
wanted to be anyway. And so for me, I'm really, the brand is the storytelling, is the movie. And as I've been doing this a little bit longer, I felt that social impact, most of the movies, I felt, well, I need to kind of take this power of this medium, which is so powerful, and really try to do something with it. So when the popcorn is finished, you're turning off Netflix, or you're walking out of the theater, that if you're doing a movie on social impact, that there's actually a campaign attached to it. I did another movie on Netflix called Worth with Stanley Tucci, Michael Keaton. He played Ken Feinberg, who, ran the 9/11 compensation fund, but he was hired by the insurance companies originally, right, to actually suppress all the money to be given. And because he had an arc in the story, he ended up getting a massive amount of money for over 6,000 families. So we premiered at Sundance, and Ken came, and Hillary came, and Bill Gates. It was very exciting. And then we sold it to Netflix. But other movies, Eleanor Reese, it was Helena Bonham Carter playing, and Hilary Swank, the lawyer, about patients being over-medicated in the systems and fighting the system from within when she was put herself in. Battle in Seattle, I did with Charlize Theron about Democracy Now! And the World Trade Organization. These are movies, and I'm working on something right now where we're looking for the last amount of funds about climate change, about the summit in 1980 in St. Petersburg, Florida, that didn't quite transpire into what it should have been. would have made a change in climate change. It's Paul Giamatti, Paul Rudd, John Turturro, Toni Collette, Evan Peters are all starring in it. And we're just about to go, and we're looking for a last piece of financing for people that actually want to get involved because they think it's going to do well. The director is the Oscar-winning director of Spotlight. And we're starting and we're shooting soon. And, that's something that's important where we're going to take the campaign, right? We're going to make the difference. The movie will come out. Hopefully it gets nominated. And, but we actually want to get involved in impactful organizations, Bloomberg, other organizations that are very focused on climate change, that know the importance of these issues. And so that's what we're doing. We're not just stopping at the movie. Popcorn's done, the lights are up. We're actually taking the campaigns to make it further, which will further the audience anyway, right? And actually is a win-win to make more money for the investors as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
You can applaud.
You can applaud. It is
You can
good.
applaud louder. Come on. And so poignant because we're here at the UN, and one of the global goals is to address the environment, to address climate. Chloe, I want to ask you, and maybe ask the three of you, what advice do you have for rising young creators? How do you get these millions of followers? What's the secret sauce?
Sorry. So I've been doing content creation for about 9 years now, and what worked 9 years ago is probably not going to work today. Things change really quickly, and you need to adapt. But the most important thing is staying committed to your work, to your cause, to what you believe in, and stay true to yourself. And I think these days on social media, you just want to chase what's trendy and what's happening, and it's just like social media is like an echo chamber right now where there's just so much noise. What I think is most important is do what you believe in instead of chasing what is trendy right now, and be the change yourself. Yeah.
Mackenzie, what's your advice? You want to make it big on social media?
Well, one, I always say you have to be really consistent. It's in any type of workspace, though. If you want to become a CEO, you have to keep working every single day to get to that next level. But something that I've been told since I started social media is, one, always be you. Especially, I feel like Gen Z, we can absolutely tell when someone is being like fake and like lying to us and not being their true self. So I've always been my real authentic self. There's no other way to be. And then my second advice would be haterade is powerade. If somebody hates on you, take it and use it for fuel to do what you love.
Amen. Jenny?
I am so excited. I feel like I could speak for like an hour.
Well, you have 3 minutes
yeah, I
and
have 3
37
minutes.
seconds,
Okay.
but and don't take it all.
Yes, I'll try to make it concise as much as I can. So I have helped thousands of students. This is what I do on a day-to-day basis. On top of creating my own content, I help lots of content creators and businesses grow their channels and help with their campaigns. So yeah, so I know what I'm going to talk about. But yes, so at the end of the day, all these social media platforms have an algorithm. And the goal of the algorithm, well, is to have you watching as long as possible. So on your videos, you want high watch time. How do you get that high watch time? Well, you need to make people care, because if they don't care, then they're not going to watch your video and they're not going to watch until the end. So that's why we hook by speaking to the viewer that you are intending to speak to, and then you make them care for several reasons. That's why when you watch a movie, let's say Spider-Man, you're going in for Spider-Man, oh, he's going to beat the villain, but actually they make you care about Peter Parker, and now you're watching this movie for multiple reasons. And you'll notice that you actually care more about Peter Parker, because at the end of the movie, they'll have the payoff of him beating the villain, but then they'll still leave another 10 minutes to show what happened with him and Mary Jane, because you actually cared about Peter Parker. So in your videos, you want to make people care and give them multiple reasons to watch.
Mary has something to say about Peter Parker.
I'm going to bring you out to Los Angeles from Miami to start making movies.
Oh, thank you.
That's what I have to do, some of that as well. And, look at the POV, whether it's Mother Mary or it's Ken Feinberg or it's Eleanor Reese or the people that were in the climate change conference in 1980, and we're portraying them. So well done. POV.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just to close it off, because we only have about 2 minutes left. Chloe, It's not easy to be a content creator. Can you talk a little bit about some of the challenges you've encountered at trying to get your message out?
I think because I grew really quickly on social media, on YouTube, and I get a lot of hate, just like any other creators do. So I had to fight back, and I sued a corporate and a person, a defamation suit, and I basically won it because I wanted justice. And
I love that justice is the theme today.
Yeah, justice.
Justice, ladies and gentlemen.
I just don't want people to bully me just because of how I look, and I'm really soft-spoken, I'm really introverted, and people tend to bully me growing up, and I don't want people on social media bullying me, so I made it known that I sued them.
Good for you.
Yeah, good for you. Quickly, because we only have about a minute left. Jenny, what challenges have you faced and how have you overcome them?
I mean, the biggest challenge was definitely not getting views for years. I mean, I started content when I was 8 years old, and I got my first 1,000 followers at 16. Like, it is so hard to be consistent and post every day when it is not working, but that's entrepreneurship. You have to work even if you're not making money, even if you're losing money. So you just have to keep pushing through. That was the hardest part. But the reason I was able to push through is because I really loved what I was doing. And if you really love what you are doing, then it doesn't matter if it's not working.
Mackenzie, talk to me a little bit about your entrepreneurship.
Is it on? Yeah. Well, one, when it came to balancing everything out, because just as much as like I do social media, I also do acting and I also do music. So when it came to entrepreneurship, just for me, just being able to balance it all out and be able to like be authentic to myself as a content creator and authentic to myself as an artist. And I started recently being able to combine both of those and taking like the storytelling when it comes to like going into my music and posting that and then afterwards leading into my new song.
Amazing. And finally, Mary, as an entrepreneur, I know that you are driven because I have been on the receiving end of your drive in the short time that we've known each other. That hustle, where does it come from? How do you tap your inner hustle?
That's actually really good. I'm doing a book deal right now, and that's my next one. Cassidy.
Write it down. I'll ghostwrite it.
Yeah, I like that. How do you tap into your inner hustle? I think it is about doing what you love. You'll do it well. That's one of the things I say. I also try to say, the struggles when I did have and didn't have what I may have attained now, whether it's, success in the career or monetary. I didn't give up, and I always say, don't settle for that B life, right? Live your A life. Yes. Even if you've got to, struggle a little bit, live that A life, all right? And I think also believing in yourself, and I'm at a point in my life, though, I think entrepreneurship true is also paying it forward. And I particularly also love all the guys here, but I like to inspire other women a lot. But paying it forward as well. And
amazing.
Paying yourself forward.
All right, we are so out of time. Thank you all for paying it forward. Mary, Mackenzie, Jenny, Chloe, thank you. Ebony, I can't wait to hear your recap.
What we want to do is introduce our first keynote, H.E. Wook-Jing Chong. He is the Chief NGO Branch, Department of Economic and Social Affairs, DESA, at the United Nations. Let's give it up for H.E. Wook-Jing Chong.
Good afternoon, everyone. And Wendy, thank you for inviting me. At least, I think I'm grateful. Let me start with my first confession today. I almost said no to this invitation today. Usually, I never say no to NGOs, my clients, but this time I hesitated. Not because I don't love WEDO, I do, as we all do, but because I still have some mild PTSD from my last visit. A couple of years ago, at the Women's Entrepreneurship Day of the 10th anniversary, I walked into this very room and looked around and froze. I was one of only a few men, and I was the only non-entrepreneur. It felt like I had stumbled into a top secret gathering that I was absolutely not cool enough to join. And remember, I grew up with only brothers, went to an all boys high school, and suddenly found myself surrounded by terrifyingly capable women entrepreneurs, basically a stadium full of Wendy's. My survival instincts whispered, run. So when Wendy emailed me again this year, I thought if I don't reply, perhaps she will forget. But you know Wendy, and when she wants something, there's no escape. She emailed, text, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, and I'm pretty much sure she was ready for a messenger drone to be take off. And so here I am, honored, inspired, but slightly nervous. Ladies and almost entirely ladies. This year is a special year for United Nations. This is our 80th anniversary. And for an 80-year-old the UN is still standing, sometimes wobbling, but still standing. The UN was created after 2 world wars to keep peace and security, rebuild nations, and protect human rights. And yes, we've made real progress. No World War III. Human rights became a universal language. Development expanded across the continents. But let's be honest, 2025 is not 1945. The world is on fire still. Climate crisis, pandemics, inequality, digital threats, wars. And the UN is trying. But all tools don't fix new problems. It's like trying to fix a smartphone with a toolkit from grandpa. And friends, 10 years ago, world leaders gathered here and adopted the 17 Sustainable Development Goals unanimously to be achieved by 2030. And now we have only 5 years left. 5 years. And here's the truth, not the diplomatic version. We have achieved less than 20% of the goals. Less than 20%. And if the UN was a private company, the board wouldn't just call a meeting. We might already have been restructured, merged, or even fired. But the world cannot tackle global problems without the UN, and we cannot allow the United Nations that fails. Because today's crises are too big, too complex, and too interconnected for any nation to handle alone. And as former Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said, there is no plan B because there is no planet B. So the only option is the UN must change. It must evolve. It must get more efficient, faster, smarter, and yes, tougher when necessary. Because neutrality does not mean silence, and diplomacy does not mean inaction. The UN must become stronger, and it can only become stronger through partnership. Let me be very clear. The UN will not be able to meet sustainable development goals without you. Period. We need new ideas. We need new pressure and new accountability. Also, we definitely need women's voices because the data is clear. Societies with women leaders are more stable, more democratic, and more peaceful. We need the private sector because innovation does not come from 100-page long UN reports. And frankly, we need partners who can move fast and strong because the world has no time for slow. As chief of NGO branch, I work with more than 6,500 NGOs from all over the world. And today, NGO includes far more than traditional civil society organizations. It includes foundations, universities, and private sectors like you. The UN door is open, not just open, it's wide open, and we need you inside. Ladies, and mostly ladies, when the UN was founded in 1945, rooms like this were filled with men in dark suits and cigars. No women, no diversity, no innovation. If they could see this room today, they would be shocked and they would realize that the world has finally grown up. And here is my second confession. Yesterday at the NASDAQ event, someone dropped a small earring on the floor, and I picked it up for her. I still think she did it on purpose. We talked and was genuinely moved by her story. Late last night, I learned more about her through the documentary, Seeing All Red. And yes, it was her, Gloria Allred. Woman who didn't just change the narrative, she changed this country. She pushed the nation to confront the truth it didn't want to hear. She used her laws, voice, courage, and unshakable principles to bend history forward. And today, right here, standing together with her, you are part of that sense of the same tradition. You changed the numbers, you changed the narratives, you changed history, and turned it into her story. And I can feel that same spirit spreading across this room and out into the world to achieve the global goals together. Let me close with the words from former Secretary General Mr. Kofi Annan. More than ever before in human history, we share a common destiny. We can master it only if we face it together. And today, in this room, that destiny is clearer than ever. Women and men, governments and entrepreneurs, the UN and the civil society, we are not competing. We are co-authoring the world that comes next. Your partnership strengthens the UN. Your innovation accelerates the SDGs. Your courage gives hope to prepare who have lost it. And I'm deeply honored to stand with you today. And as Gloria said, the fight has just begun. Thank you, and let's shape the future of history and change the world into a better place. Thank you very much.
Our next lunch note keynote will be Sharon Richardson. She is the founder of Just Soul Catering, formerly incarcerated and a D5 Ventures graduate. Let's give it up, Sharon Richardson.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Wendy, for the invite once again. My name is Sharon Richardson. I am the owner of an amazing social justice catering company. The name of the company is called Just Soul Catering. We have been in business for about 10 years now, and we have graduated over 8 classes. We encourage women that are coming home who are formerly incarcerated to participate at also my nonprofit, which is called Reentry Rocks. And we've graduated these classes, and these women have either started their own businesses, started their own nonprofit, or they've come to work at Just So Catering. Just So Catering came to be after someone 10 years ago invited me to participate at this wonderful organization called Defy Ventures. Defy Ventures was the organization that I did not believe in. I thought it was some type of a scam. And after meeting everyone there and realizing that they were actually helping formerly incarcerated women and men start their own businesses, I was floored. So the day that they asked me, well, what's your business? What is it that you want to do? I was like, I don't have a clue. Because after spending 20 years in prison, coming home 15 years ago, I was at a total loss. All I knew is that I was free and that I wanted to do something different in the world. I wanted to make a difference because I had left my children and my family behind, and how to start out, I was just lost. So they took me by the hand and they work with me day and night. And we met wonderful volunteers like Wendy and those supporters who were helping Defy Ventures to actually put people like myself in place. And that's how Just So Catering came to be. So we serve an amazing cuisine of soul food. You can look us up. www.justsoulcatering.com. We have an amazing spread. My nonprofit organization, Reentry Rocks, we work directly with all women that are coming home that have domestic violence cases. I myself was in prison for a domestic violence case. Unfortunately, at the time that I was inside, there were no laws that passed that would free me. And so I did every day of those 20 years. And I made a difference in my life to come home, to create an amazing company like Just So Catering, to create the nonprofit Reentry Rocks, and to help sustain women coming home to walk in my path and to do something different and better for not just themselves, but for their families and the wonderful people of New York City. So that is my story. I think that everyone here in this room, I think that everyone here in this room needs to really understand that entrepreneurs cannot make it without your support. That wherever your heart lies, when you hear about women and entrepreneurship, it is a huge struggle. It is not easy. It's very difficult to get through day to day. But when we have supporters like yourself who are making a difference and walking with us on this journey, it is an amazing journey. It is a wonderful journey. So whatever your desire is, wherever your heart lies, always make sure that you know that you're doing the right thing. And so, Wendy, I thank you again for inviting me and allowing me to tell my story. If you want to know more about my business, I'm sitting at table 15. I have business cards, and I would love for everyone in this room to at least experience Just So Catering at least once. Thank you for having me.
The next person to hit the stage is Shine Bright Like a Diamond, Wendy!
Well, first, I'm just going to start with this. The greatest thing I do every year, twice a year, is I go to the maximum security prison in Connecticut. And one of the projects that we fund with Women's Entrepreneurship Day is literally teaching incarcerated women in prison entrepreneurship in partnership with Defy Ventures. And people don't really realize this, is that taxpayers, if you're in America, taxpayers pay $100,000 a year for them to be in prison. And this program only costs $2,000 each and is 84% successful. They don't go back to prison. I mean, that is really what, and Sharon is the living example. I mean, how long were you in prison? 20 years in prison. And literally she went through the program in prison, got out, and more importantly, she had the confidence and the skills, right? Of knowing that she could create and be an entrepreneur. And a lot of people who go through this program aren't all entrepreneurs. Sometimes, you don't have it in you, But literally Sharon did. And that's one of the programs we support. So first off, so that was good. I went into the middle, but that's okay. Woohoo! So thank you everyone for being here. And I'm so honored to have such an incredible room here. We have some of the most incredible people that you've already listened to, but also everybody in this room who has dedicated your time today, because that's all we have is time. And literally to be here to support these initiatives that our foundation supports. So we started in 2013 when I ended up in Honduras on vacation, not realizing it was the murder capital of the world. And, I still went when I learned it was the murder capital of the world. And I ended up in a boutique hotel in the jungle. Then I was watching birds for like 3 days. And I'm like, oh my gosh, if I watch another bird, I'm going to go cuckoo. Get me out of here. And so the guy at the hotel said, I know this woman. She's a development director of an organization called Adelante in Honduras. Why don't you go? It's safe. It's about a 2-hour drive. You can see Honduras. And you can meet these women who are getting these microloans. And this was in 2013. And so I went on that journey. I ended up spending not just the afternoon. I ended up spending 3 days on a dirt floor. And I met all the women that were getting these $100 microloans. And I'll just give you one story of a 72-year-old woman, and this is the woman why I thought of this whole idea of Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization. She was like in her 70s, and she had 3 little kids, and I'm like, oh my God, this is a miracle. What are you eating? You know what I mean? Anyways, fast forward, these were her grandchildren, and her daughter passed away, the husband... Anyways, the daughter passed away, the husband ran off, and she got a $100 microloan from this organization called Adelante. And she lived in this little hut, dirt floor with these 3 grandchildren in one room. But she was selling Cokes and toothpaste with the one window. And literally when you spoke to her, she was just so proud and excited. But she made enough money to pay $1 a month for these kids to go to school. So of course, I'm like, oh my gosh, that made me realize like, wow, this organization is making a huge impact. And I started finding all the data. And basically there's millions of microloans around the world. Women are paying them back at a 98% rate. Men in the 70s, low 70s. Just kidding. But no, it is true. Anyway, fast forward. So anyways, I learned that, 90% of that money goes to educate their children, provide for their families. When women are empowered in business, they have self-confidence, they have dignity, they don't allow human rights violations. We're a capitalist society. Give a hand up, not a hand out. So that was my idea in 2013 when nobody was talking about women entrepreneurs or women in business and media. UN Women wasn't even talking about women entrepreneurs. There were, companies didn't even have women's groups. So I said, wow, if we create a day, we'll create the conversation. So we launched at the United Nations and we partnered with the State Department, and that's how we launched in over 140 countries. And today, I'm super excited. Oh, I'm super excited every day. I think you probably realize that. Anyways, that I'm super excited because at the end of the day, the greatest gift you can give is to give. And everyone here, I just want to say thank you. Literally today, what we support is 1, incarcerated women in prison in entrepreneurship, but we also launched an AI program for every single person that's a woman, whether you're successful or you're a nurse or you're in Zimbabwe or you're in Venezuela. We created an AI program made it super easy. People like me could learn it. Literally, I'm high EQ, low IQ. So meaning, we made it so simple and easy for everybody, whether you have a computer or not, you can do it on your phone. Because most people in this world don't have a computer, right? There's 2.5 billion unbanked. and they're mainly women, that they can actually do our AI program simple and easy. And I want to say that like this, we've got literally over 2,100 girls right now in countries like Afghanistan, Zimbabwe, and all these different countries. And to see, we're going to post this and you have to watch it. It's like what they're saying, because it's giving them hope. Right? Because the project, especially in Afghanistan, where people are forbidden to go to school, literally are at school, they can't afford it, so literally they have to go all together into their homes where they have internet, because not everyone has internet. And they literally are going through this program right now. And we're having a lot of, Olivier knows, he's our community manager. Woohoo! And so like literally these projects are very important, because if we can give everyone a hand up and not a hand out and provide the tools and education is the absolute key. And some of the other projects that we've done is we created the first ever Women in Disability startup cohort to help disabled women start their entrepreneurial journeys, but actually Google for Startups now funds that all over the world. So we've done a lot of things as well as passed a few bills. So that's what we do. And then I have a few more minutes. I'm just gonna give you my quick story. So I'm from a 2,500 person town in Ohio called Chagrin Falls. Now, it was really a country bumpkin kind of town, but now Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce are buying a house, so it's all over now. But anyways, my background, everyone's like, how did you do this, and how did you create this, and et cetera. Everything we go through in life is an absolute positive, whether you know it in a day, a year, or a decade. So I always say to people, just embrace with whatever you go through. And when I was a kid, I literally, my parents, when I was 16, kind of had some mental problems. And at 16, I was pretty much on my own. 2 jobs, literally in high school. I would literally skip school and go work. And when I graduated, my aunt from San Francisco said, "What are you gonna do? You've got to go to college." And I had the worst grades ever. And she said, "I found a school that would accept you. You should go." So I ended up going to this school that was an all-women's college, that was an old finishing school turned 4-year liberal arts school for women, 300 women. And literally when I graduated, because it wasn't known for the smart, it wasn't like for like highly educated people, right? Like it was like me, I was like I didn't really pay attention to school because I had so much going on. And literally, I sent out 100 resumes when I graduated, and I didn't get one reply back. And that's what made me an entrepreneur, because I had to figure it out. And I'm so happy that, my whole life has been about impact. When I learned that 12 million animals were euthanized a year, I created the first media company to bring celebrities and pop culture to the animal rescue world. I know we have the big influencers here. I want to say this. I was an influencer before influencers. I literally was on the Today Show every month. I had a primetime show on CBS. I literally was raising millions of dollars for animal rescue because I knew if everyone knew you could adopt any breed, any size, any age, you would choose to adopt versus buy. But then I got lucky because I got a stalker, a crazy stalker bully that ruined my whole animal world. But it didn't really ruin my life. So that's when I ended up in Honduras. That's when I created this foundation. And as you heard earlier, that's when I got into Bitcoin in 2014. And that's how I ended up investing in startups that are making a huge impact in this world, and spend my whole life just figuring out how we can make a difference. So everyone, you can make a difference. On your tables is a cute little card. We didn't know it was going to be so little when we printed them. I guess we didn't, again, fine details are not my thing. Anyways, but if you go on that card, we would love everyone in this room. If you can just donate $1, that's all we ask. So one of the companies that our foundation and me personally invested in is called Dollar Donation Club, and it's enabling everyone in the world to donate $1. Literally, they partnered with Selena Gomez. They're raising $100 million for mental health and so forth. But our goal is when you see and you go on that card, you'll see the impact. If you donate $25, you can help a woman or a girl learn AI. If you donate $2,000 for incarcerated women to go through literally the greatest program, and as taxpayers, we should all be doing this, right? So anyways, I want to just say thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you for listening to me and giving me the time. And so excited, because now we have one of our greatest speakers. One of the funniest things that we do that I think is super important is when, you know, like everything about me is like, how do I help? What can I do? And how do we make it more impactful? And if we just kind of get that in our mind, I think you wouldn't have mental health issues. I think if people spend more time thinking on how they could help other people instead of themselves, I think they would have just a better life and find purpose. So one of the things we did was like, oh my gosh, how do we make these awards? Because there's award shows everywhere, right? Everyone gets an award. Everyone gets these trophies or these nice things and all this kind of stuff. But when you really realize it's all about your life and the impact you had. So we partnered with the Queen's School 277. Woo! With all these disadvantaged girls, and they created the Pioneer Awards. So the awards that you see today that these women and men are gonna receive were actually created through this program that we did called the WEDO Arts Entrepreneurship Program. Because if we can just get that in everybody's mindset at a young age, we can truly change the world, because no one has jobs anymore for 30 years. You know, there is no, with AI and everything, but if we can create those skills and enable everyone the opportunity to be an entrepreneur, we can truly change the world. Thank you.
Amira is one of our lunch keynote speakers, and she's one of the youngest artists, a 7-year-old from Queens, New York City, right over that bridge. Take a look, turn around. And she is a 3rd grader with a lot of passion for reading and a love for pink. You love pink? I love pink too. Amazing. And as part of our We Do Art Entrepreneurship Initiative, she painted one of our Pioneer Awards that you see along this wall right here. Everyone give it up for Amira. Come on up.
I am so excited to meet you all. Oh my God, hi. Okay. Today, I'm gonna give you my presentation. Let me just slow down. My name's Amira Ashurova. I'll be 9 years old in December. I think being an empowered woman means having a job, money, and a pet. When I grow up, I want to be a veterinarian so I can help animals. I want to create my own vet business, and I would call it Amira's Animal Vet. I love art. My favorite thing about art is painting and creating masterpieces. Being a strong woman means being strong and brave. I think I'm strong and brave, and I empower my friends to also be strong and brave by being kind and helpful.
Now I want to introduce our Pioneer Awards. The We Do Pioneer Awards are all about honoring people that do great work in this world, actually. So if you are a Pioneer Awardee, I'd like you to come on up and head on to the stage if you could.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for this. It's really an incredible honor to be recognized and to stand here surrounded by women who are not only building incredible things, but also building possibility. I'm really humbled. When I think back to my beginnings as an entrepreneur, I think back to the dinner table. My mother, who's standing right there taking pictures, is an entrepreneur, and she started as a reluctant one. However, she worked relentlessly, And like most entrepreneurs, she never turned it off. So dinner table conversations in our house were never small talk. They were about ideas, about problem solving, about resilience, and about finding a way forward when the path was not clear. From early on, I came to see entrepreneurship as simply what we do when there's a problem to solve. I believe women have a kind of superpower when it comes to solving problems in particular. We see what the world needs, and we have the grit to do something about it. Think about it. Women make up to 85% of household purchasing decisions, directing more than $10 trillion in US consumer spending every year. We feed our families and we nurture our communities. Who better to recognize opportunity to make things better for our families, for our communities, and the planet? But seeing opportunity is just the beginning. Turning that insight into real change, that takes resilience. Women entrepreneurs face significantly more rejection, yet studies show that our startups deliver twice as much revenue per dollar invested. Working mothers spend on average 15 more hours a week in unpaid labor and still perform at the same level professionally. Women are incredible because these challenges don't break us. They forge us. They make us more resourceful, more creative, more relentless. We get up one more time than we fall down. When I started my company, I wanted to help people eat more fruits and vegetables. I wanted to make them accessible and convenient. I knew that the problem was real. It's hard to eat healthy. Not everybody likes broccoli. Because I'd lived it. I'd seen it in my own kitchen, and I'd seen it in the lives of people around me. But we all know that conviction doesn't mean a smooth path. Through doubt, fatigue, fear, that's where problems are solved. And that's when change starts to happen. And that's why organizations like this matter so much. They remind us that women don't need permission to lead or to build. We already have what we need. We have the insight, the creativity, the resilience, and the will to keep going. We don't wait for someone else to fix what's broken. We follow our instincts. We build what we know intuitively needs to exist. And we remind each other every time we fall down and get back up that being a woman can be a superpower. So let's keep trusting our guts. Let's keep saying yes when it's easier to say no. Let's keep getting up one more time than we fall. Because together, we do so much more than just drive the economy. This is for women who build solutions. This is for women who shape the arc of our shared future. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I'm tall. I'm not sorry I'm tall. I'm just tall. Hi. Thank you so much. This is an incredible honor, Wendy, and what you do here every year is so important. It's so important. It's an honor to be recognized as a Women's Entrepreneurship Day Pioneer Award honoree. This recognition means so much because it celebrates what I've dedicated my career to, building a world where women's innovation, leadership, and economic power are recognized as essential, not exceptional. For those of you not familiar with me, I'm Jessie Draper. I run Halogen Ventures, and I'm a venture capitalist or an investor. In venture capital, you raise a for-profit pool of funds and invest in startups based upon a thesis or a strategy. This year, we announced the close of our third venture fund in Fortune magazine based upon the data-driven thesis, Future of Family, how to support families at work, home, the physical health of the family, and the financial health of the family. A few years ago, one of our companies, Hop, Skip, Drive, a safer Uber-like service for kids, started working with the foster care system in Los Angeles. They solved a major problem, getting kids to school who otherwise would have no way to get there. Around the same time, my team and I looked across our portfolio of 75 female-founded companies and realized that the ones doubling every year in value were all childcare and family-focused. Supporting families wasn't just good for society. It was really good business, and I feel the need to shout out my friend and investor and founder of Care.com, Sheila, who happens to be sitting right next to me, because she really started this movement. Today, we back companies like Upwards, which provides affordable childcare through 66,000 vetted in-home childcare providers in the US for kids 0 to 6, incorporating corporate as well as government benefit structures because 99% of society cannot afford private preschool or daycare. Binti, which matches foster kids with families 60% faster than the US government, which, let's be honest, right now is not a high bar. Last year, they placed over 100,000 children in homes. And MRSA, which helps hourly workers across childcare access childcare benefits because Target employees can't afford childcare and they can't work if they don't have childcare. To give you the full family arc and billion-dollar vision, because I think in billions as a VC and trillions today, other examples include BabyList, our billion-dollar baby registry, Trust and Will, our affordable estate planning software. So we cover you from birth to death. Sounds very morbid. It's actually a very upbeat team when we discuss things like probate law. To give you so at Halogen, we back women building the future. While men are a critical piece of families, these may be opportunities that have been overlooked if they don't have a female on their team. The data shows that societal issues like these will only be solved with equity at the helm. Invest in women-led teams, and the money goes into childcare, education, healthcare, stronger communities. Invest in all-male teams, and you risk, well, another fire festival, or another criminal like Sam Bankman-Fried of FTX. And as a reminder, Sam raised $10 billion. These are extreme examples, I'm aware. But do you know what women could do with $10 billion? Do you know what each of the women in this room could do? Just think about that for a second. With $10 billion? We'd probably fix the entire childcare system, solve homelessness, get the United States out of debt, and still have plenty left for any kind of latte you want. I love men. Ironically, I invest in women, and I have 3 little boys. I was raised by incredible men. We need men. This is not a man-hating club. But if women aren't equally leading and managing the money, we keep ending up in the exact mess we're in now. Because money isn't just money. It's power, it's choice, it's freedom. Today, bear with me, I feel I have an important message to deliver to this room of incredible women and men. We are standing at the edge of something unprecedented, the great wealth transfer. Over the next couple of decades, trillions of dollars will shift hands, and women have the opportunity to inherit or control more of that money than ever before in history. It's estimated that by 2030, American women will control around $40 trillion in assets. That's not just a statistic, that's fuel. That's leverage. That's a once-in-a-history chance for us to step into the flow of money and take the pocketbooks. I am telling you today to take the pocketbooks. Take the pocketbooks, take control of them, get in the financial discussions in your family. It's basically the Avengers, and the women are assembling. This is our opportunity. And here's the thing. We can either let that moment pass us by and keep playing the same game, or we can decide to play it differently. We can decide that this money doesn't just move, it moves with intention. I've seen firsthand what happens when women step into investing. Their confidence grows, even if it's shaky on day one, and the impact, it's extraordinary. It changes communities, it changes industries, it changes the entire system. What Wendy is doing here today and with WEDO is rewiring the system. These rooms are very important. I have found that many women in rooms like these are scared of investing. They're scared of investing their own money. I am speaking to you. I want to leave you with 3 things to remember: confidence, risk, and responsibility. Confidence, because the data shows we are excellent investors. Women's portfolios often outperform men's, precisely because we take thoughtful, less reckless risk. When I raised my first fund in 2017 to invest in women, people laughed me out of the room over and over and over and over and over. Honestly, I started wondering if I should just bring a laugh track with me to every meeting. Today, we have 75 portfolio companies and 5 at over $1 billion in value. 2 will go public soon. Now the biggest venture funds in the world are calling me to see what our team is looking at. Have confidence that your instincts are smart, that you know better than your husband or brother or father or male colleagues. Have confidence in your abilities. 2, risk. Take risk. Don't just be a risk taker, be a risk master. Progress never happens without risk, but risk doesn't mean recklessness. It means deciding that sitting still is the bigger danger. To build my venture portfolio, sometimes I take the thoughtful and calculated risk. But this is venture investing, so sometimes I take the flyer, the wild one, will this app for renting alpacas actually work? You're thinking probably not. But then you Google alpaca fur and realize that in 2024, the market was valued at $3.6 billion and will supposedly reach $5 billion by 2033. Those are real stats, by the way. So the craziest idea in the bucket is sometimes okay. Be a risk master. Could alpaca fur be the next Uber? I don't know, maybe. And number 3, I'll leave you with responsibility. As a female, don't look at this as though investing is a sideline activity. You actually have a responsibility to participate. Because if we don't step in, nothing changes. I don't care if it's stocks, real estate, Bitcoin's going to the moon, by the way, startups, but you have a responsibility to invest. It could be $5, it could be 500 million. So my call to action is this: be part of the flow of money, because each woman in this room could change the world with $1 billion. Thank you to Wendy and WEDO for this great honor.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you guys so much. It's a big honor to be here, standing here with so many amazing women sharing like such amazing stories. And I just want to thank Wendy and the entire team for putting this together as well. This moment means a lot to me, not just because of everyone in this room, this venue. It's also because I've been creating content on YouTube for 9 years now. So this feels like a really special milestone in that journey. Honestly, I have thought about quitting a few times because of the amount of hate I got. I got from 1 million subscribers to 25 million subscribers within a really short amount of time. And that gathered a lot of hate. I got death threats, stalkers. It's just insane. I just make fitness YouTube videos and people hate me for that. It's insane. I just could not understand it. It was just a couple of really jealous people who got really mad at me for the success I have. And that became a trend on social media to create videos to hate on me because that get views. Which is the reason why I said to not follow trends, because it was trendy to hate me. It was also really trendy to love me before they hate me. There's a reason why I got to 25 million people, because a lot of people love what I did, and then a lot of people hate what I did. So I didn't quit YouTube, clearly. I'm still here because my audience were rooting for me. They were really encouraging, just like how I was supporting them. And I took that as a power for me to get stronger and do more. And I started a fitness app to feel that, and I want to be able to help women. Well, majority of my audience is female, but I want to help everyone generally. I want to make them feel included and supported and have a community that they can go to for support. And that's why this app existed. I invested a lot of my funds in it because I truly believe in it. So that's why this means a lot to me, this award, because it just made me feel like what I do is so worth it. I also remember reading comments from girls all over the world, and I saw a pattern. They all felt alone. They also felt like they felt ashamed of working out in public, so they felt safe working out with me at home, and that's how it started. And that's the reason why this app meant so much to me too, because now we have a community of introverted girls probably working out in a bedroom, and they are encouraging each other and helping each other. So that became the heart of my content, like fitness workout videos and guidance. And I try to promote self-acceptance and self-worth and creating a better, positive energy among my community. And yeah, on behalf of me today and lots of other young women who are just starting their fitness journey, thank you for this honor and recognition.
Thank you. Please stop the clock for a moment. Little girls, okay, because I have a personal message right for you. All the little girls here? So I represent a lot of children too. So I have two messages for you, because one of my first cases was a store that had a sign that said girls' toys and another said boys' toys. And then we fought that. You know why? Because little girls can play with any toys. They can play with money games. They can play with be firefighters or doctors or lawyers or accountants or executives. So you can play with anything, okay? And we won that case, all right? So little girls that I represented and little boys, 7, because some of the boys, they thought cooking should be on their side too, like cooking toys. And they thought that, like being a nurse, that a boy could do that too. So we won that case. So little girls and big girls and women and men can stand up for themselves. So always stand up for yourself. And the last thing I want to say is, are you listening? Nobody can touch you without asking, is it okay to touch you? And you can say no if that's what you want, all right? Because this is your body. Nobody can touch it unless they ask you. You could say, no, thank you, please don't touch me. Or I need to ask my mommy first, or my dad, okay, or my guardian. So you promise to do that? Because you matter, you're a person of value, and you need to be respected. Will you always remember that for me? Okay, thank you for being here today. Bye. Okay, you can start the clock now. Okay, so I just want to say that, first of all, I want to say, because we're a women's rights organization, basically standing up for women entrepreneurs as well, always remember that the people who have a double burden of discrimination are often racial minorities. So we need more racial minorities here as well, women minorities, and who are also going to be entrepreneurs. And they also need to be protected against discrimination and retaliation if they report it. And we know how to protect them as well and assert their rights. So I just want to say quickly, because they wanted me to say something about myself, which I didn't really want to say, but I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, 2 parents who only had an 8th grade education. My father was a door-to-door salesperson, and we all never had a car, just enough money for food for the next day and all of that. But I went to a public all-girls high school in Philadelphia. It was all academic. And even though I wanted to leave because I didn't think I was as smart as the other girls, and I couldn't do it, my counselor said, you stay here, you belong here. And as a result, it opened up the university for me, and master's degree and law school and all of that. So I want to thank any teachers or anyone who has been teachers for that. So what I do want to say is sometimes the ultimate outcome of a case is not as important as the struggle for justice. If you fight for what you believe and what you believe is right and speak out publicly about it or confidentially in a mediation, raising that issue and generating public discussion might cause change, even if the lawmakers at that time are not ready to enact that change. Creating a climate of opinion that's supportive of change is an important step toward winning it. However, be careful what you say and seek counsel before you make public statements or leap into the unknown. Throughout my entire career, people in corporate America, in government, and in powerful positions have been my adversaries, and even other lawyers have tried to intimidate me. It has not always been easy, but I've learned that if you have a firm and a burning commitment to right the wrong, and you are prepared for the battle, then you can overcome intimidation. Remember, if you're generating a strong reaction, you're probably saying something important. I've won many battles in my career by applying certain basic concepts and principles to my life. I start every day with the knowledge that helping people and fighting for justice is my duty, and that nothing worthwhile comes without sacrifice, self-discipline, and courage. I'm a lawyer, but you do not have to be one to help win change. At Rosa Parks' funeral on November 2nd, 2005, United States then Senator Barack Obama reminded us that Ms. Parks had, quote, held no public office. She wasn't a wealthy woman. She didn't appear in the society pages. And yet, when the history of this country is written, it is this small, quiet woman whose name will be remembered long after the names of senators and presidents have been forgotten, end quote. That is because she was, as Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm called her, quote, a heroic warrior for equality, end quote. You too can be, quote, a heroic warrior for equality, end quote. Even if you're not rich or famous, you too can make the choice to make a difference. Then United States Senator Hillary Clinton reminded us that we too can have a, quote, Rosa Parks moment, end quote. I would urge you to have a Rosa Parks moment every day. Challenge yourself and challenge others to stand up for what is right. More than anything, in the face of adversity and injustice, I want you to overcome your fear and be fearless. Find your voice and not be voiceless. Find your power and not be powerless. I want you to be able to fight back and win justice for yourself, your children, your family, and your community. When you're feeling pessimistic or even hopeless, remember the words of Susan B. Anthony, quote, failure is impossible, end quote. There is no defeat in standing up for what is right and fighting injustice. As suffragist Carrie Chapman Catt once said, quote, whenever a just cause reaches its flood tide, whatever stands in the way must fall before its overwhelming power, end quote. Speak up, fight back, and seek positive change. Others will follow your lead, and ultimately, you'll come out a winner. Fight back and win. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good afternoon. I thought I'd start with two stories. The first is when you're taking a company public, you do this non-deal roadshow and you travel around the country trying to market your company. And we flew once into a private airport, and I decided you have very little sleep and you're back-to-back meetings. I decided to run to the bathroom and follow in the conference room. And when I arrived in the conference room to meet with investors, my CTO was shaking the hand of the investor. My CFO was shaking the hand of the investor. I decided to go for the coffee pot and offered everybody coffee in the room. But by the time they got to me, they said, you must be the assistant from the bank. And I looked at him very confidently and I said, I'm founder, chairwoman, and CEO of Care.com, Sheila Lirio Marcello. I'd like to start. Let's open our investment book because you will be investing in my company today. So I share that because throughout my career, thank you, Gloria, for pointing it out, that there's been a lot of underestimation as being an immigrant. And as of the announcement that was made, I later learned when I took the company public that I was the 7th woman to have ever taken a company public since the 1600s. There have been now 30, 40, right, Jesse? 30, 40 since the 1600s. It's a very sad statistic. I'm actually standing up here not proud of it, but realizing how much more work we need to be doing. And so my second story that I thought I would share is very personal to me. Now it's also related to the IPO. The milestone had been hit. We were celebrating. We were at our celebratory dinner. It was a room a lot like this. Investment bankers, accountants, lawyers, everyone in the room. It was open mic. I was dead tired, exhausted. The first person that took the mic was my 22-year-old son. And he was looking straight at me. And he said, "Mom, do you remember in high school you asked me a question at the fridge? You asked me, have I been a good mom? And my answer to you at the time is that you were not around enough." It hit me, like right here. And he's repeating the story in front of everyone, and I am nervous, and my heart is going like this, with tears coming down my face. He said, "I want to tell you today that I answered that wrong. That I look around this room, and what you have spent 13, at the time actually, 8 years of your life doing is to actually help serve people and make an impact in people's lives, and you are a great mom." I share that because of my own immigrant story of starting Care.com. As I saw my parents, I saw the immigrant families who carried multiple jobs, multiple identities, multiple burdens. I saw women, especially women of color, holding up the world with what we call invisible labor no one ever measured. And guess what? My body was tired after 13 years. We sold the company. I ran it as a public company for 6 years. We sold it to IAC, to Barry Diller. I took 2 years off. My body had given up. I needed a mental break, but I am doing it again. And people think I'm crazy, and I'm now building OHAI. It's OHAI. It's humanity within AI. And my mission continues. It's to give families back time, to reduce the mental load, and to build a world where caregiving is valued, visible, and supported. If we want women to lead, innovate, and rise, we must first unshackle them from the unpaid work that limits their full potential. My work is not done. Awards like this are not a finish line. They are fuel. Jesse said that. I love that word. It's a fuel to keep building. It's a fuel to keep widening the table. It's a fuel to keep ensuring that every woman, whether she is a mother, a caregiver, a daughter, or a dreamer, feels seen. I see you. I get to say that. We get to say that to each other, that we all feel seen, supported, and able to soar. So thank you, WEDO, for lifting this work. Thank you for proving that when women design the future becomes more caring, more inclusive, and more just. So let's keep building a world where care is power. It's not just softness, it is power. Where women rise together and where joy becomes part of the infrastructure too. And I want to end with just a breath and from my heart, a mantra that I'd use meditation every day, to trust in love and to live in joy. Thank you for this honor.
We are so honored to call Howard Morgan a great friend of our organization. From day one, he was like, absolutely. And, I didn't really know how incredible Howard Morgan is. But he is seriously one of the nicest people and most humble people. First of all, he was the co-founder of the largest hedge fund in the entire world and most successful hedge fund in the world, Renaissance Technologies. He's also the co-founder of First Look Ventures. He's also the chairman of B Capital. But the most important thing is Howard is invested in 30 women-led funds. Woo! And so we were thinking about this, and we were like, there's no better person, because we're never going to do this alone. We need to bring men into the situation. We have to always, because at the end of the day, we're 50-50, right? And if we can enable everyone in the world to realize how important it is to invest in women, we can truly change the world, as you've seen today. So Howard, woohoo! And wait. Happy birthday to you. Thank you, Howard. Please.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm really honored to get this award, to be the only male up here. I have been a supporter of this organization for a long time. Women have been an important part of my life. Obviously, we all have mothers. Mine was an important part of my life. But I have 3 daughters and a wife of almost 58 years right now. So for me, it's really been important to empower my daughters to live whatever life they could and to be as productive as they could in whichever ways they wanted to be. And they've done all sorts of different things. The middle daughter, Beth, is now president of the Cleveland Federal Reserve. She votes on rate cuts. She votes against rate cuts, actually, but right now. The older one was at McKinsey. The younger one is, last year was national mahjong champion, among other things. But they're all terrific people. And when I started First Round Capital with Josh Koppelman, we hired our first female partner, Haley Barna, who had been an entrepreneur we had backed with Birchbox. And then we did a study after 10 years at First Round. And the study, which has been widely quoted, showed that founding teams that had a woman as part of the founding CEO team did, and I think the number was 65% better than teams that just had all men. And there's a good reason for that, is because you want to have tension among founders. You want to have the ability to have different opinions. And women are used to having different opinions than men because they see the world from a different perspective. They see a lot of the same things we do, and I see a lot of the same things that the women do, but also there's some different things, whether it's emotional EQ kind of things, whether it's the fact that they control so much of the spending, as we heard earlier, which is, as Rachel said, and so they see a piece of the spend that I don't see. There are so many reasons that becomes important. And so starting around 2015, my oldest daughter and I started investing in venture funds that were led by female founders. We all also have a chunk in African American founders and Latino founders, but mostly it's women founders of funds, and they have performed really well. Ed Zimmerman, who has the First Close partners, has the statistics from 2012 that show that the female-led funds have one more point of multiple of invested capital. That is to say, while the typical fund will return twice the capital, 2.1, the women-led funds returning 3.1. So a significant increase and improvement in returns. So just from a self-interest financial point of view, investing in female investors, and also them typically investing in a higher percentage of female founders than we have, because they have the network to find them. And that's what's so important. And make sure that when you're out there looking for capital, there is capital available. There are a lot of funds, and make sure that you can find the funds that have female partners, because they're more likely to give you the right kind of hearing. I'm partly ashamed to say it, but the facts are pretty clear that we men have biases against female founders. I don't, I'm pretty happy to say that I don't, and pretty much First Round doesn't. But when I look at a lot of the other funds, there is definitely a bias. There is, and there are all the unspoken things that people, say. Well, is she going to leave to have kids? Is she going to? How long will she be with this company? Can she give it 25 hours a day? The answer is yes, they can and they do, but some people aren't willing to give the benefit of the doubt for that. So I want to help support as many of you as possible through the funds that I've invested in, and I want to wish all of you success in doing this. And my support for WEDO is deep and heartfelt, and I want to thank Wendy and everyone for this wonderful award.
Our moderator today will be Natasha Sarah Albarad, finance reporter for CNBC. Featured speakers include Rachel Rory, the unicorn, Sheila Lyro Marcello, co-founder and CEO of Ojai.ai, and venture partner NEA. Come on up and join us, guys. Girls.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us here today. You could be anywhere, but you choose to be with us, so we're appreciative. Today, we're covering the wellness economy. Now, this economy is a $2 trillion economy, and women are really driving that space. Spending is going up in the space, a lot driven by women. There's an increase of demand for specific tailored products in the space. And a lot of companies in the space are being led by women like yourselves who have built these formidable institutions and wellness products. Now, I want to start by saying, though, that there is a large disparity gap in the funding available to women, especially as we talk about venture capital dollars, business loans, and research funding. So I just want to ask you guys to start, where are we in the evolution of women's wellness as an investable market? Where would you say we are?
Can I just ask if, I guess there's a lot of noise in the room. If you guys can hear us, could you raise your hand just a second? Just raise your hand. I so appreciate you. Thank you so much. You go.
Okay, I can start. So as you mentioned, this is a huge moment in time where women's wellness, femtech, has a ton of attention. And the money tends to go where there's money to be made. So the stat that I always like to think about when I think about women's health is that women are living longer. Men are living longer too. But women are still going through things like menopause at exactly the same age. So if you think about the amount of time that women are spending where they have endocrine deficiencies and hormonal deficiencies, it's longer. And what's incredible about that is that, as I said, the money goes where the money is to be made. So there's longer health span, longer lifespan to invest in.
And Sheila, yes.
Yeah, so we saw this at care.com. Right, that a majority of caregivers are women and women are living longer. But I thought I'd just share some stats with you. Women have been historically underserved because 70 to 80% of research products and clinical trials were built on male bodies. I learned this recently. I invested, I'm an LP in Muse Capital run by two women. Where's Howard? Howard's not here, but he should invest in Muse. But apparently they taught me that clinical trials did not include women until after 1993. Did you guys know that?
Yeah.
It's crazy. And yet women control 80% of household spend. And we shoulder, as you touched on too, is that we're living longer, we have more needs, but on top of it all, 75% of caregiving.
Yep.
And we experience higher misdiagnosis and adverse drug events. And only 1% of healthcare R&D. Can you hear that? 1%. We're 50% of the population. 1% of healthcare R&D go towards women. And less than 5% of digital health VC funding target female needs. I mean, it is a problem, but I think people are waking up, opening their eyes. As Rachel said, we're following the money. And guess what? Women are making 80% of the decisions that are being made around spending. And we have a huge need in healthcare. So I think it's going to drastically change.
Okay, so I get that. So basically, the evolution still has a little bit of ways to go. And so I want to ask you guys, as far as like your own personal journeys, like what would you say were some of your biggest challenges as you sought out to build these companies that were marketed towards women's wellness and wellness in general?
I think I shared a little bit of the story when I shared my speech in the award that it continues to be the case. In 2006, when we went out to raise money and then we eventually raised over $200 million, I felt very lonely and alone. And recently, last year, Melinda Gates had the vision to do the first ever Care Summit. And I was on stage and helped kind of open the event. And I felt very emotional on stage because I suddenly looked out at the audience and there were 400, mostly women, in the care industry, in the care economy. There were VCs, there were entrepreneurs, there were a lot of people, research, people interested in supporting. And so my journey, even though I felt very alone back then, I think it is drastically changing. And the challenges, however, are still there. I think Howard got it right, where the stories are still, I get questions where I'm advising a female entrepreneur and a male VC will call me as a friend because they're being direct. They will ask, is she going to be tough enough? Is the grit there? Is she planning to have babies? Is it, the line of questioning, and I really would have to pause to my friends and I love you, but this line of questioning should stop right now. And it is still there. That's the sad part. And the biases are still there.
Yeah, just to echo, women drive the consumer economy, as we've covered. And the percentage of funding is still only 2%. And, that number has actually gone down to even less than that. It's startling because you think that we're making so much progress and you want to believe that we're making progress, but having incredible female-led funds, like where's Jessie? Where'd Jessie go? There she is.
We're investors. We're investors.
Yeah. Are going to change the game. And I do think that when it comes to women's health in particular, that is where there is opportunity, and that is where a lot of that gap will hopefully be made up because men don't have ovaries. So, it's a hard thing to understand, and to be able to, have those conversations in a safe, supportive environment, I think is really important, and it'll change. But, these statistics are unfortunate. And, we're doing the thing, we're here, we're showing up, and we're talking about it. And I think Jessie, another shout out, spoke about it earlier where, we have to put our money to work to see that change.
Can I add something too? Yes. The other thing that I've observed is there's a lot of ageism. Mm-hmm. I'm turning 55 this month. Thank you. I'm a grandmother. I can share you that. But the ageism is there and it's real. I wrote an article, my dear friend Stephanie Mehta published it in Fast Company, that women over 50, especially women over 50, and what I want to encourage, because I'm looking around the room, whether you're in your 40s or 50s, if you're trying to build something around care-related, family-related, if you're a young woman in your 20s, it's not likely that you're going to build something proximate to that because you're not having kids yet. And generally, the advice is to get passionate because it's hard work, is to be proximate to the issues. And so if young 20-year-olds who may be incredible AI engineers, and even as women, and there's few of them, aren't building this, then who's going to build them? Okay? And then if you're in your 30s and 40s, you're juggling a lot of work-life balance, and you're wondering whether you should be an entrepreneur, or should you scale back, or should you work in corporate? And so female entrepreneurs there are also in short supply. And so now, if you are looking around the room, are suddenly your experience, you've led, you've got access to resources, you can raise money, you're proximate to the issues, you care deeply about women's health, caregiving, families, then guess what? This is still an opportunity. It's not, you shouldn't be ready to hang your hat yet. We need you. We need more female entrepreneurs. We really do.
Okay, and so thank you for those responses. Now, we definitely have a better understanding of where things can still progress, but I'd love to know from both of you, are there any signals or signs or markers that you think are showing that the industry is definitely maturing in the ways that it should, in a way that you would like for it to mature and evolve?
I think that the increase in number of funds that are investing in things like femtech and women's healthcare, and just the attention to, research, which in my opinion is probably the most important place to put our dollars right now, to fill that disparity of information, right? With information, you can see opportunity, and we need to have that information to be able to make change. So, the research is happening slowly but surely. And it's because that's where the money is, and that's how our economy works. So I do think that we are at the beginning of seeing major change here, and I'm really optimistic about it.
I think the unicorns, Jesse's in 5 of them, right? And I think exactly what she said in her speech with such passion. Money talks. And so I think for many women, invest in other women. I think that's really the key.
And so both of you built your companies while also being family, building a family. And it's a really difficult thing to do. How would you say caregiving, workplace policy, childcare, reproductive rights, and all of this really shape the economics of women's wellness, like the economics, of women's wellness?
I mean, you can't disentangle the two. I think we covered it earlier, where women work 15 hours extra every single week for unpaid labor. And that takes its toll.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure. So I think that, seeing progress and seeing, the potential will carry us and create that extra motivation and resilience that we need to really see that change.
Yeah, I think that's why I'm doing it again. Care.com, the mission I had around the care economy was really that care is the work that makes all work possible. You can invest trillions of dollars and, finish potholes and worry about bridges and all of that, but no one's going to leave home and get in a car if you don't have a great care infrastructure at home. You're not going to go to work, right? So the reason we work is because our loved ones are cared for. Right. And so now at OHI, and this is the point, this is the data that Oxfam did in 2020, 4.8 hours of unpaid labor that a woman is paid. I'm not talking about the hours that we are not evenly paid at work, of the 8 hours. I'm talking about 4.8 hours per day. If we freed up 1 hour of the 44% of the workforce that are women, with just 1 hour of that unpaid labor, $1 trillion of GDP. That's the size of 2 countries. So when someone says care is a soft issue that should just be personalized at home, I don't think so. It helps drive the economy. So at OHI, we're just trying to free up that 1 hour. I'm going to do my starfish principle, right? Which is, I just got to do it one thing at a time in my own little world that I'm trying to figure out what can I do to actually help families and help women.
And so I'm curious to know, as we think about the larger macro, what role do you think policy or government maybe should play in financing the wellness economy, if any?
I think it's embarrassing that when we think about parental leave, we're one of the few countries in the world left where we don't have it. And I think policies and government can move a lot of needles. And I'm back to my starfish principle, and the hope that I try and focus on, even though we read a lot in the news, is as a builder, as an entrepreneur, what can we do in the private sector to advance things as much as we can to really work and now collaborate, right? And I really do think government can move needles, but at this point in time, if it means that within our power, we can actually innovate, create, and make an impact in the world and help people, where Rachel and I are up here as entrepreneurs, then that's the world that we can really give back and really focus our energy on.
and having more entrepreneurs out there, more women entrepreneurs out there who understand the problem firsthand, who can have creative solutions, not only that serve them. I was pregnant when I started my business. There were solutions that needed to exist that didn't exist for me. And I had both of my kids while I was building. And having that experience allowed me to come up with really creative solutions for my team. When people came back from maternity leave is just the beginning. You're still nursing, you're still exhausted, you're up all night, thinking about creative solutions alongside my team, where we called it our soft landing. We had to name it something. But figuring out how to get women back into the workforce after maternity leave. Yes, the government can definitely help. Our policies are inexcusable, but the private sector can make the first move here, and having more women in entrepreneurial roles and in leadership roles, I think will make a huge difference.
And just to build on that too, something personal. I got pregnant in college between my sophomore and junior year. And then when I was in grad school, my dad fell backwards and had a heart attack. And so I was sandwiched between childcare and senior care. And that became the inspiration for me to start a company called care.com. And we find when we're proximate to these issues, we're trying to figure out our own solution for ourselves. And you start to realize when you look around and find the love in your heart, you start to realize, gosh, millions of women are going through what I'm going through. How can I not be building? Why should I retire after care.com, though my body was tired, right? It's like, if not me, then whom? To kind of build and really serve and help people.
Now, in the last couple of minutes, I just out of curiosity, I'd love to know, and I'm sure they would all love to know too, if you had $1 billion to unlock the next wave of innovation in the female wellness economy, where would you invest it and why?
I mean, this is not going to be a surprise, but I would invest it in research. I mean, to be able to, use the technology that we have available to us today to really understand how female organs age and what the impact that has on our mental health, on our brain health, on our vision, on our heart, on our skin, everything. Taking research that has been done on male subjects and redoing it. Right? Like to have to redo research that is like codified in medical journals. It's imperative.
I completely agree. For me, my focus has been on parental stress. Vivek Murthy, the former Surgeon General, actually had said that the number one epidemic, and I actually agree, in the next generation is that when we're stressed, the next generation is seriously impacted. The economies are impacted, our overall wellness and being is impacted. And so, and there is a lot of stress that we are dealing with as parents. And so research, absolutely. And I think we as women carry a lot of the weight of that parental stress, and our children feel it. And so the research, solving the mental load, really focusing on solving family issues. There's a lot of money to be made in AI, but if there are more women helping build things for families because you're proximate to the issues, it'll make a world of difference for the next generation.
Thank you so much, both of you. That was a great conversation. Thank you so much.
Our moderator, come on up, Jennifer Streaks. Speakers include Claude Grunsky, CEO of Equity Alliance, Howard Morgan, Chair, General Partner, B Capital, Megan Bethke, Managing Director, Head of U.S. and European Private Equity Funds, Jesse Draper, Founding Partner, Halligan Ventures, Founder, Valley Girl Ventures and Venture Girls, Inc., and our moderator comes to us as the Senior Personnel Finance Reporter with Business Insider. Thank you all. Let's get it started.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. And this is a panel that I am personally very interested in because I think that when you invest in women, you automatically invest in success. And so I just want to know, what are some of the traits that make investing in women a best bet? As we know, when you invest in a woman, you get 35% more on your investment. And so our panel here, these are all high-level investors, and so I have a few questions for them. And whoever can jump out and introduce yourself too when you speak. So what unique strategies or leadership traits have you observed in women-led startups that help explain why these companies consistently deliver over twice the revenue per dollar invested?
Well, it's amazing to be in this room. I recall back when I first started off in finance, I was often the only woman in the room. And I just want to say I'm delighted too, because my 10-year-old daughter at table 17 there has exposure to this sea of powerful women leaders of all backgrounds here today. So I'm Megan Bethke. I lead private fund investing for Moose Partners. In the US and Europe, Moose allocates across public and private asset classes from venture to buyout. So from a fund investor perspective, even though I don't have to invest in women funds, I want to invest because of common traits, leadership traits that I see time and time again that really make a difference when it comes to driving successful outcomes. So I'll highlight two. The first is relationship building. So access to great deal flow really starts with strong relationships, and over, I see women leaders really excelling here, building real, authentic relationships that open doors that others can't. It comes to mind a female founder of a buyout fund I know didn't win the deal by name dropping her connection to Jamie Dimon or paying the highest price. She earned the CEO's respect by through her strategic insights and her transparency and her humble low ego approach. So that type of authenticity is a real standout. And I'd also mention decision making. I think from time and time again when I speak with founders and management teams, I hear that women founders of venture or buyout funds, their diligence is next level, digging deeper, really running tighter processes, and staying highly selective about who and what they're investing in. So this authentic relationship building and decisive leadership really are two examples at the heart of what is driving women-led funds to deliver that 1x return over male funds that Howard was referring to earlier.
I mean, women are fantastic leaders, but I think it does start with deal flow. You know, I'm looking for women who can like walk through fire and, walk through walls, walk on water, and who just won't give up. And I think that's not necessarily female or male. It's just if you're going to invest your money with someone, you want them to be an incredible founder. What I've seen particularly with our women is that they're more efficient with the capital. Part of that is because of how thoughtful they are. I always say women need a larger miscellaneous category because they'll be like, we only need this much money. But if any of you know what it's like to build a business, it's not straight uphill. It kind of, you go up, down, all around. Sometimes you're way down, sometimes you're way up. And it's not a straight line. So I'm always like, I don't feel like there's any room for error here. Go back to the drawing board and how much do you really need in case it doesn't go exactly how you think it's gonna go, because we're very reasonable human beings and so are men. Men are reasonable too, but women take much more calculated risk, really measure it out. The dollar goes a lot farther, but that's also because women, as you heard many times today, can't raise as much capital. It's much harder. A lot more is against women and minorities. A female minority, like all the odds are against you if you look at the data. So those are some of the things I think about when I think of great founders. I actually have a really incredible one in the room named Tia Gordon. She's right here.
Right here.
And I think of her as an incredible founder. She helped design and operate the 9/11 Memorial previously, and she is she's so humble about it. She would never tell you that, and like that's such a badass job, right? And now she's running this EV charger company that's beating out Tesla in all of the major cities. And what's great about her, I'm sorry, I'm just speaking your praises because you're incredible, is she's obsessed with the problem. She just wants to fix the problem. She gets really granular, and I think that makes just the best founders, female or male. They can't sleep at night until they fix it, until their CAC is the number they want it to be. And it's not about the fame and fortune, it's about the problem. And I think that makes an incredible founder.
This is so interesting how you framed it that way, Jesse, because I think you and we think about things very similarly. I ended up investing in Tia Gordon as well. And the thing about you, Tia, you're so modest about your achievements. It's only after I came here and ran into you that I found out that It's Electric, your company, is now also active in Los Angeles. And it's really, this is major because this is a 9th city, I believe, and it's a very, very simple concept. How does it work, right? If you're trying to scale up EV charging, now It's Electric is helping you to charge curbside by basically negotiating these partnerships with these property owners. So this is really, really major. It's a very, very simple innovation, but how do you scale that into something that is actually meaningful and the kind of company that can get the venture type returns that we look for? And then the other thing I want to add about you specifically, and I don't want you to be shy about this, is I just find that women are a little bit more astute in the way that they manage relationships with a certain level of emotional intelligence. Give a really example. You wanted to connect with Howard. You want Howard to invest in your company. And you found out that I knew Howard. I was on a panel with Howard. I know one of his former business partners, but you're not doing it in that very male, obvious way. It's really about connecting around shared affinities and how best to approach Howard without it being obvious or just that business card first and that approach. And so I just want to say one more thing, because I don't want to hog the mic, but I'm really glad that we're having this conversation today, November 14th, because 5 years ago to this day is when I was in Brooklyn Hospital and I almost died of COVID. And I came out a week later, and it was Thanksgiving that my former business partner with whom I launched the Equity Alliance, Dick Parsons, called me. And for those who don't know Dick Parsons, I have to speak to him about him every single time I have a mic. Dick Parsons was an African-American guy from Brooklyn, son of an electrician who rose to become the head of Time Warner when it was the world's largest media company, Citigroup, CBS, the Rockefeller Foundation, the list goes on. And he called me, he said, I have cancer. I don't know how much longer I'm going to be around, but I want my last venture to be with you, and I want you to be a custodian of my legacy so that we can invest in venture capital exclusively in women and people of color, which is what we've been doing. And I think it's really important that people can be intentional in that way. And even you, Howard, we were talking earlier about your firm was very male-driven before, but then you had a woman bring the change. So I think it's important that even though we might be late to the party, we lead with intention in everything we do.
Well, that was great. So I want to direct this next question to Howard, because I think you've been talking about this all day. What are the hidden barriers or biases that persist even now to funding for women? And there's so many founders and want to be founders in this room. So what should women be on the lookout for?
Well, certainly the bias is about asking those questions about where women are in their stage of life. Are they having kids? Have they had their kids? Are they going to work as hard as men? That's the bias, because of course you do, and harder in most times. But that bias, you have to be very careful for any questions that get anywhere close to those kind of issues, and head them off very directly, as quickly as you can. And that is a key bias. The other key bias is, are you technical enough for whatever you're going into? So, we expect technical knowledge of our founders, and has been an assumption, which is no longer true, but the assumption was, well, women aren't as technical. Women don't do math. They don't. That's all BS. But that is an implicit bias that's still around, because it's only now that we've got, Cornell has 50% of the engineering school is female, Stanford and a bunch of others. But 10 years ago, that wasn't true. 15 years ago, it wasn't true. So there is that implicit statistical bias, if you will, and then people turn a statistical bias into a bias against the individual in front of them who may not represent that statistic at all. So you've got to make sure you differentiate yourself from sort of the average statistic. You're not the average. You're an individual, special person. And you have to show, as you're pitching to any VC, what your background is and why you have the right skills, because otherwise some of them, too many of them, will make assumptions that are not correct and about what's going on. Those are two key things.
You know, when I think about that, there are these biases, and I'll just tell you a story that I'm sure I'm going to get in trouble in this room for sharing, but we were raising our third fund, which we've since closed, and thank God. We were looking under every rug for money. It was a really tough fundraising is really hard if you've ever had experience with it. And, you know, we're doing really well. We have great exits and, you know, a great track record. And I just said, okay, to my team, let's go after this new, it's an old program that was relaunched by the SBA, the Small Business Association of the United States. It's called the SBIC program. And my team, I'm not even going to look at you because I know you're going to tell me not to tell the story, and I'm going to tell it. Okay. So we were way deep in. We'd spent $100,000 on legal just to apply to this program because it's a really complicated program to apply to. I had to have 25 references. My team members had to have 25 references. Have you ever had 25 references for anything? Terrifying. They basically own me and my children. We got to about the 10th meeting with them, and they said, hey, we want to have a casual call. And the head of the program gets on and he says, hey, your recommendations are stellar. You know, your track record's amazing. You have varied co-founders. They gave us all this very specific feedback. They said, we want to get you over the fence on this program, which would basically double our fund plus some. And I was sort of like, where is the but? Where is the but? And he said, but we'd prefer if you had an older male, gray-haired VC on your team. Now, something I haven't shared is that my dad is a venture capitalist. And he said, like your dad or one of his peers. And I was like, I'm a 41-year-old adult. I'm talking to, I mean, I obviously didn't say this to the guy, but in my head, I'm fuming and I'm in front of my team. And I just said, I started asking qualifying questions. I said, you know, Dana Settle from Graycroft, which is a great VC firm, is one of our advisors and mentors. Like someone like that, are you saying like an advisor? And they said, no, just like a new partner on your team who is a male, who's older, who's had more experience than you. And I said, I do want to remind you, this is our third fund. And, you know, we had this talk and we sort of shut our computers as we do today, and I was just fuming. I was like, we've come so far. This is the Small Business Association of the United States of America. We have a track record. And then I heard about, it's a long story, but we ended up sending an email saying, hey, we've decided to recuse ourselves from this process because we weren't aware of the older male VC requirement, and I copied everyone I could from the SBA. They called us so fast. So this was 9 months ago. Okay? They called us so fast, and they said, we couldn't believe he said that. I just can't believe that. And then I asked him, and that's exactly what he said. And so that was a very frustrating process for us. We ended up just closing our fund and not moving forward with that. But this is my third fund. And then go on to find out that the woman who took over our process, she said, we just funded a guy who has zero track record, and we just gave him $30 million. And I was so confused. So the biases are still there. I just wanted to share one personally from 9 months ago. So I think that's a real problem. And if Gloria, if you want to talk to the SBA, I will hire you so fast.
Megan. I'd also add on that some of the common labels I hear about women are that they're too soft or too aggressive. But for example, being seen, softness can be also often empathy, which is a trait that I look for in leaders that I back. And then in terms of aggressiveness, I think oftentimes it's these women leaders that are willing to go the extra mile and are rolling up their sleeves, and they're being there for their companies. One VC I know flew to LA for the day to listen in on sales calls, and this wasn't just for show. It was to deeply understand the business development needs and the customer base. And in this founder's view, it was extremely rare to have this happen, and really makes a difference in building companies and helping to drive successful exits. And I know that women often get a bad rap in our industry, probably most industries, for being intense, but women have a unique ability to be both kind and aggressive. And not only is that okay, but it's absolutely necessary to be hell-bent on winning and also being your authentic self.
I do want to mention something. Thank you, Megan, and also Jesse, but I do want to mention the elephant in the room, because we at the Equity Alliance have a dual lens. There's a gender lens, but there's also a racial lens. And if I look around this room, I've counted 3 black women, right? So what you're facing, black women are more or less 7% of the US population. They get 0.1% of the funding, right? So white men get 20 times as much funding as black women. So imagine the odds being stacked against you in a way where you're just so underfunded, and you don't actually have that many role models out there of people who have done it, right? There's Melody Hobson, there's a few women, but in venture, our industry, it's so difficult. And I think we have to face the fact that these inequities are just very real, and unless we do something about it, the gap is gonna just keep widening.
Very true. Okay, this is going to be my last question for this panel. What is it that you think needs to change, to shift? Structurally, policy-wise, we know that there are gender biases, but what kind of policies should be out there? What kind of structural inserts should there be? I almost think to myself, and speaking as a black woman and knowing so many women that start businesses, most of us are relegated to using credit cards, parents, grandparents, everything. We just don't even think about seeking capital or a loan or getting in contact with the SBA, because we think it's such a daunting process. When do you get big enough to seek out an organization like the SBA? So what needs to change, whether it's mindset, whether it's information, or policy to accelerate capital flow?
Well, I think in terms of policy, I think we really need to have some sort of minimum, not quota per se, but minimums that say, we really have to look harder to find the qualified people of either of color or gender that are not getting it today. And, sometimes it's also the squeaky wheel that gets the grease. And so the bro culture says scream loud, and the bros in the Valley do all of that. Whereas the more the female founders don't stand up as strongly. The other thing I'll say, and this is also maybe a little non-PC, is that probably the most successful male founders are somewhere on the spectrum. You look at Mark Zuckerberg, you look at Bill Gates, look at Elon Musk, they are all on the spectrum. How far up? I'm not a doctor. I am a doctor, but I'm not an MD. But and women, the most successful women founders are not. And so I think we have, as a policy, to have to look at some of that and say, what factors are driving some of these men to be so aggressive and so single focused? Because one of the things of being on the spectrum is you're very focused. Whereas the women leaders, who are great leaders, want to have the whole company work well, and the men are just, Elon does what he does. So.
Megan. I think it starts with the ground up, beginning with recruiting and making sure that the candidate pipeline reflects the diverse perspective, including representation of women. The value that women bring to the table is already there, and as more people recognize that and women naturally move into decision-making roles, I think there'll be a comfort with seeing women as leaders and more getting comfortable to give capital to women-led funds and companies.
I would speak to the regulatory part of the question, which I've had a lot of thoughts about how you diversify the capital. As I've lived the, emerging manager, they still call you an emerging manager at Fund 3, and to break into these larger pools of capital as an emerging manager is really, really difficult. The majority of the capital these days is advised by a handful of firms, and the majority of it goes to Silicon Valley to 5 funds that frankly aren't early stage venture capital funds anymore. They're all RIAs. They are, which are basically like large private wealth management firms, PE funds. They're just much bigger money, and you really need that early stage capital and those early stage funds who fund those innovators to break through and create new funds that will diversify the capital. So I've had this idea of like, how do you shine the light on all of the endowments and all of the larger pools of capital that's advised, or if you have over $4 billion worth of capital, you should hire internally. So University of Arizona, for example, would invest probably more locally if they hired internally versus outsourcing it to an advisor on the East Coast. And I think that's what we need a little more of. The state of Alabama is one of our newest investors, and we've been dealing with that in the state. How do you get more funding to the state? It's a lot of economic development. And so I've been thinking, how do you shine a light on where all of the capital is going? We need more early stage fund capital access.
I would just add something much more simple and actionable. And I say that because yesterday we published our very first impact report, the Equity Alliance Impact Report, and it's on our website, equityalliance.fund. And the headline that I wrote is Social Capital as a Strategy for Superior Returns. And what does that mean? It just means getting together in places like this, because I've known Wendy. Why do we love Wendy so much? I've known her for 27 years, and she's always been about convening and bringing people to, 10. Bringing people together so that we can have conversations like this. Because what I find, as somebody who invests mostly in just really women and people of color, is that they're just not in the networks. They're not part of the conversations. They don't even know how to get to Jesse, how to get to Megan, how to get to Howard. So if we can find ways to convene in this way, I feel like we can make real progress in democratizing access to capital.
Thank you all. That's my last question. Wendy, this has been so wonderful, impactful, and informative. And I'm going to echo something else I heard that I hope that you leave out here today with 1 or 2 business cards, new friends, whatever. We're here to network and learn from each other. Thank you all so much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, United in Impact. We are going to lead right into a keynote speaker for this afternoon. Suhaila Hashumi is a scholar at Brown University. WEDO's AI education information in Afghanistan. Welcome to the stage, everyone. Suhaila.
Good afternoon, everyone. 1,560 days have passed since August 2021. 1,560 days since Afghan women and girls lost their simple rights to live freely. In these 1,560 days, Afghanistan has become the only country in the world where girls are banned from education, women are erased from public life, silenced, restricted, and told their existence are not matters anymore. But I'm here today. I'm here to tell you, Afghan women are not silent. Afghan women are not weak, and we are not broken. We are strong, we are capable, and we are brave. Today I stand carrying between two different worlds inside me. One is the life that I have right now, full of opportunities. And the other one is the world I left behind during the evacuations, a world that collapsed in a single night. My story begins here. When the Taliban took over, school closed, future despaired, dreams were cut, I left Afghanistan without saying goodbye to my family, without having a bag, without knowing if I would ever see my hometown again. And I carried only fear and a small piece of hope. I spent weeks in a military camp surrounded by thousands of people running for their lives. Everything felt confusing and heavy, yet I kept applying for scholarship because I believed that. Once my dad used to say that education is the only way to save your life. When I received a full scholarship, I feel like life giving me another chance. Coming to the United States wasn't easy. Nothing was familiar. Not the language, not the culture, not even the taste of yogurt I used to growing up with. I was safe, but my heart was not feeling safe. My family was far away, and I just recently lost my dad without saying goodbye to him. And that pain will stay in my heart forever. Today, I study business economics and data science at Brown University. I walk freely, I speak freely, I study freely. Simple things that Afghan women no longer have. People ask me, you must be stressed. You're graduating in 2 months and you don't have a full-time offer job yet. And I say, yes, I'm stressed. But do you know what is more stressful? Being safe here while your family is not. Nothing is harder knowing millions of Afghan girls and women now live behind closed doors. They lost their life, they lost their rights to study, to work, to choose their future, to show their faces, even to stop going outside alone. In 2024, I worked with WEDO on a small business projects to make it possible and accessible for Afghan women. Hundreds of Afghan girls signed up with hope. Only a few could finish it, not because they lacked ambition, but because they had no phone, no internet, no electricity, no financial freedom. I will never forget the calls I received. Girls were crying because they were forced into marriages. Girls begged for having another chance to study. And girls were asking for a way to escape, even just to learn. Afghan women do not need sympathy. We need opportunities. We need peace. We need a world that doesn't look away. Every time I stand on a stage, one question sits in my heart. What if I were still there? What if no one helped me? What if the world ignored me the same way it ignored them? That thought hurts, but it also drives me. I fought hard to be here, and I will not let the world forget about Afghan women. I will speak today. I will speak at my graduation in December. I will speak at any event that I can. My voice is free, and I will use it for the millions who cannot speak at all. They have studied in secrets. Classrooms, they have started their small businesses from our homes. They have whispered lessons in the darkness, and this is what resistance means. I also want to acknowledge the work that WEDO do And I know it brought a lot of skills, confidence, and hope to the women who had no access to classes today, even when doors closed in Afghanistan. WEDO opened a new one, a new hope. To every leaders and organizations here today, I ask you, do not look away. Your silence is strength. Injustice, your voice can open possibilities. Support Afghan girls' education, support programs that empower women. Stand with us in actions, not only in words. Because Afghan women's rights are not a dream, they are just humans' rights. Today I speak for the millions of Afghan girls who still believe in a better future. Girls who study secretly, who dreamed of becoming teachers, doctors, lawyers, engineers, and leaders. To my Afghan sisters, I say, you are not forgotten. Your courage is my strength, your hope is my mission. And the world, I say, do not close your eyes. See us, hear us, stand with us. Because we will stop fighting because we will not stop fighting until every Afghan girl can walk freely, learn freely, and dream without fear. Thank you.
Our last keynote for today will be Her Excellency, Ambassador Mary Elizabeth Flores. We call her Lizzie. Come on up here, Lizzie.
Wow, thank you to stand here. I'm in awe of you and of this initiative. I'm going to say that actually I work a lot in this building. It's a thing about every week. It's either here or in events. And I mean, the UN has become like a space of familiarity. Even so, at the same time, it has a very much in-house groups that participate or what you may know as member states, as I am part of a mission of member states. Even so, it does engage in ways with civil society and different groups. So that is why you're here today and also injecting all of this, I would say, vitality and hope and optimism to the UN, because at times the UN hasn't looked very well. I mean, in the last years, it has had situations that, as if you can hear people around the world, you know, they are going through challenges, and some things are very sad. Very sad. There are situations where people are going through great suffering, and some of them are counting on the UN, and the UN isn't working, or they're counting on their governments, and their governments aren't delivering, or they're counting on others to support and to make a difference, and maybe they are struggling. And so really, it's also to look at how we make, you know, organizations and how we make engagements work better for people, and for people to be able to do things on their own, to have independence, autonomy, and do things on their own. And the UN has been plagued by corruption, scandals, delinquency, even situations of terrorism and conflict. And this is like inside the UN and in different places all over the world. So it's engagement of human beings. And there are some good initiatives, there are some good results over the years that people actually see that it's been worth it and favorable. Even so, you have to continue engaged and also noticing and also doing your best to correct, to prevent, to bring in what really is in integrity and works for people, for homes for families, for businesses, and it's also a discovery process. So I like this initiative, and thank you all for caring, for your support. And I'm gonna prepare some words. So it's an honor to join you celebrating Women's Entrepreneurship Day. Thanks to Wendy and her vision and commitment alongside many women and also men who believe in this project. It has been achievable and has grown to reach many corners of the world. This is supporting individuals and families and communities with education, training, good practices, integrity, and values in entrepreneurship. It's the source of independence and freedom, discovering and building skills and standards, and the joy to be part of entrepreneurship, trade, and commercial activities that contribute and better the livelihoods of people and communities. We are thankful in Honduras that it could be a great part of this movement. And actually, Wendy shared with me many years ago, I believe it was 15 years ago, how it all started. It was inspired in Honduras or by Honduras and her trip there. And we are thankful to God for these opportunities that bring forth good for people and our lives. Many blessings to all of you. Thank you so much.
We are coming to an end here. Remember, silent auction, the Bali trip, it is all tax deductible. Wendy, get on up here and close us out with our Miss Chloe Ting, who is like running it with the content creation. Yes, let's go, Chloe Ting.
Okay, everyone has to stand up. We're gonna all do a video with Chloe. Woo-hoo!